Hey, Mike here from Showboys. We're excited to bring you Showboys Gaming, a YouTube channel created for you to enjoy our exclusive gaming content. Anything from live streams to gaming videos will be found here. Go subscribe now so you don't miss out on any Showboys Gaming content.
Too young for this trek. The final frontier. These are the voyages of
MC,
Troy, and Eric.
Their mission to introduce Tyler to strange new episodes.
To seek out the best and worst media in the Star Trek franchise.
To boldly go where several podcasts have probably gone before.
You can listen to these goobers talk about Star Trek by searching for Too Young for This Trek or by visiting probablywork.com.
Hey, Nick from Showboys here, and I want to invite you to become a member of the Showboys Discord. Our Discord is the one-stop shop for all things Showboys, from announcements to fun conversations, and of course, memes. Come get to know the Showboys staff and our growing community of pop culture fanatics. We have something for just about anyone.
Hi, I'm Becca.
And I'm Mike.
And we're the Courtneys.
We're the hosts of a new marriage and relationship centered podcast called Couple Conversations. We're not here to give marriage or relationship advice, but instead we're just going to have some honest and thought-provoking conversations about our relationship.
After 10 years of marriage and the chaos of parenting, business ownership, and being content creators, we thought it was important to focus on dating each other and keep the spark alive in our marriage, so when we're old and wrinkly, we still enjoy each other's company.
Each week, we'll be going through a series of questions to have honest conversations about our relationship, as well as occasionally be joined by other couples to hear their stories and advice. We just want to share the things that we've learned along our journey and remind you all to continue to date your spouse.
So join us every other Friday at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, beginning October 8th, and join the conversation.
We'll get that out of there.
That was fantastic. Thank you. That's the best intro I've ever received. Thank you so much
for working that up like 1 minute before we went live. You know, that's pretty good.
Worth every second. Fantastic.
Yeah, we got that. Yes, welcome back.
Hello. Thank you all so much
Goon.
for having me back. I appreciate it. Thank you all so much. I had a great time the first time, and I'm looking forward to this time. Thank you all. It's really cool.
We are glad to have you back.
Great intro.
Sure. Nick, how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing well. I'm doing real well. And I would like to start off by apologizing, Wendigoon, that especially after clipping last time you were on some clips there, I realized just like how visually dead I looked toward the end of the episode. And it was because like 2/3 of the episode, I just a splitting headache came over me, and like it was pretty unbearable. And I remember that, and then doing the clips, I was like, "Wow, I look rough." I was like, "Hopefully, he doesn't think like."
No. It's all good, bro. Don't worry, it's fine. You were still more lively than a lot of people I've talked to, so it's all good.
That's honestly, typically how 3 hours of talking to me goes with Nick. He just feels like inches away from death by the time we get to the end. But yeah, that was funny. Something that we've started doing, we've started going back and adding timestamps to our videos because our podcasts tend to, push the 2.5 hour, sometimes 3 hour length. And, that can be a little intimidating to people, maybe, So we're like, maybe we'll be kind and we'll go back, do some timestamps. Mainly, our intent's not really for our listeners, but more for like SEO stuff, if we're being honest. Trying to hit that SEO optimization.
Understandably.
Yeah, but I'm like, I have, here's my workstation. So I have my day job. I had the episode up on one of these monitors, and I'm just like rewatching the last time you were on trying to do timestamps. And I'm like, Nick, I know you said you didn't feel good, but like you don't look good. like you could just see the decline of Nick like throughout the entire episode. And by
it's
the
like
end,
220. 220. It just hit me. And I was just done.
Yeah, surprised you didn't fall out of
I
his
want
chair.
to go home now.
and I completely forgot that I made that Breaking Bad comment like all the way at the tail end. So like mine was just like warped.
Yeah, well, that's the excuse you're gonna use.
Yep.
What is it you said about Breaking Bad again? I remember it was something
I watched
atrocious.
3 episodes and it didn't.
That's it. Yeah, stick. You did it. Yeah, it's an okay for someone to be like, oh, I didn't watch the show, but to like watch 3 episodes and then not like the show, that was a problem. Understandable.
Yeah, pretty much the worst.
True serum headaches are the worst. I was splitting headache, and now I'll say anything right now.
Yeah, but we're all feeling good tonight. Hopefully, you're feeling well, Mr. Wendigoon. How are you doing?
I am fantastic, 100%. And just to like say up front, Nick, I didn't think there was anything wrong with you or anything weird at all. I just thought you were tired, which I get, because there was a moment I remember near the end where like me and Mike were going at it, and I look over and you're just like staring above the screen, just out of it. And I'm like, are you okay?
No, I was not okay.
Yeah, someone needs to go check on Nick. He may be dead.
Man, that would be an episode. That'd be your search engine optimization right there.
It'd be like
Nick just has to die.
Host dies on screen.
Or like Weekend at Bernieing a podcast. Like someone propping up Nick.
There is no Nick. It's just the chair pushing him around.
Yes.
But I'm feeling great, and I'm happy to be here.
Awesome. We're glad to have you. And we were kind of talking before we went live that we are now starting to incorporate streaming to Twitter instead of Facebook. And we've done this the last, definitely 2 weeks.
Past 2 episodes. This might be the 3rd.
Yeah, but somehow we got banned from streaming to Facebook, and I have no idea why. Haven't gotten a notification, no email, nothing. Just every time we go to stream, it's like, oh, nope, you can't do that. You're just temporarily not allowed. And I'm like, okay. And so I was talking to Nick about it, and we're like, what the heck? Like, what happened? What could we
did we say something
talked about that would lead to this? And then we realized that we had recently gone over our podcasting methodology, which we had coined the IED method. And now, retrospectively,
that may do it.
Maybe not the greatest acronym for how we podcast.
I was clipping that episode like shortly thereafter, and I was uploading that clip to go over the method because it's not bad. And
Yeah, no.
I was
just,
like, I was adding it to YouTube, and I was like, I'm typing IED method in YouTube as like a title for a video. I'm like, this might not be a good idea at all.
Yeah.
How to build your own IED. Have an
exactly.
IED at home. Yeah.
Oh, God.
I don't know what's wrong with that.
Yeah.
What's funny is you're doing it again now because you're currently saying the word again.
But we're not on Facebook, so YouTube has.
Oh yeah, so it's all good.
And Twitter, you can do anything on Twitter apparently, unless you say. I guess you can't really. Do anything.
The stream just goes down as you're talking right now.
Yeah.
Just get booted out.
You want to clarify what our method is that we have now renamed? Probably not any better, but now
we
it is
rearrange the letters.
The DIE method. The
DIE method. Okay. All right. Sure. Why not?
What
kind of a lateral move, but okay.
Discuss, inform, and explore.
There you go.
So see, our topics.
The IED was inform, explore, and discuss. Not
we just have to adjust how we go about it now.
We're not, blowing stuff up over here. Except your ears.
You gotta spell it out as IE and D, like the and logo. IE and D. Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
So you know your way around.
Yeah. I've been on the block a couple times. Yeah.
Yeah.
They hate me too. It's okay.
Well, yeah, because you got demonetized on one of your videos.
Yeah. That's happened a few times. This is the only one that I've overturned and got it back. But yeah, they do that. They don't like me all the time.
Did you do that only through that tweet?
Yes, I just complained enough on Twitter. It was actually what's funny is I added them like 4 times and they didn't say anything, and then I made a meme of them, and YouTube's like, "Hey, we're on this. Don't worry." I made a joke where I made him a joke where I called him a Giga Chad, and they were like, "Hey, now you're talking our language. If we get someone right on that, don't you worry, Mr. Goon."
Well, probably the guy that was or whoever was, watching their feed was like, this is pretty funny. We need to get back to him.
Should probably do something about
that. He called us a Giga Chad.
That's awesome.
What is like they demonetized me, and then I was like, hey, can I get some help with this? And then they put it on the trending page. I'm like, okay. Like, so it's not safe for audiences, but you're gonna throw it on your homepage. All right, then. Whatever.
Did they give a reason?
They do that to me all the time.
Yeah, what was the reason? What happened?
Yeah, so there's 2 different kinds of demonetization that can happen content-wise after a video's out. This isn't counting like copyright. That's its own monster.
Yeah.
But when it comes to like content of a video, there's automatic demonetization, and then there's manual demonetization. So what hi Aiden. So what happens with these is if it's automatic, that means that the censors picked up an image that they thought was bad. This is normally only applicable if you're uploading like adult film straight to YouTube. And it's like very clear for the censor to be like, yeah, I know what those are, and like cancel it out. So if that happens, it's pretty good about, they're like, hey, do you want a human to check this? And normally if it's not and the censor just messed up, they'll give it back. Now, if it's a manual demonetization, which I got, there's no appeal process. There is a form where you can, which I did, where you can leave a review of what you think of the manual process, but there's no like appeal or whatever. That means someone watched the video at YouTube and then manually said, yeah, no, this doesn't count. So what they said specifically is that are you familiar with the new YouTube system where you like check what your content falls under as far as like heaviness or violence of it goes or whatever? Have either of you uploaded anything and seen that whole bar?
No.
So there's this thing that they started doing a few months ago or maybe a couple months ago, whenever you go to upload a video, it says, what does this video contain? And there's categories for sexual, violence, descriptive language, whatever. And just to be safe, on all of mine, there's a bottom one where it says sensitive topics, and it's on a scale of 1 to 3. So I always give myself like a 2, just so I could be like, hey, if anyone comes along to view this, I know it can be a little touchy. And that like up until the last video, that has been fine. YouTube's been like, yeah, we agree, that's still safe for ads or whatever. But I did that on the Mandela video, and then they said that was fine, my section about sensitive topics. But in my section about language, I was too descriptive with mature issues. So they demonetized me for that. And that's what their reasoning for. Yeah, that's what I said. So I just kept complaining on Twitter. And then, like I said, they saw Giga Chad and was like, this man needs his money back. But what it was, I think, is because I said the word suicide a lot in that video. Now, none of it was in reference to like a person who did it or like methods of it. Did either of you watch the video?
I haven't, because I love analog horror, and I was like, I haven't seen this one, and I want to watch it before I watch you like dissect it.
Oh yeah. I highly recommend watching the original series first. It's worth your time. But like, it's about cosmic beings convincing people to commit suicide so they can possess their corpses. And that's like all I said. And YouTube's like, this may be a little much. He may go into too much detail on this one. So someone who works at YouTube was like, no, absolutely not. Get that out of here.
There's kids watching.
Yeah, it's like, hey, hold on, sir. What if a child clicks on this video about the evil possession demons? Okay, suicide may be a touchy topic for them. They do that all the time. There's been 2 other videos that have been demonetized till Wendigoon. There's this thing on Twitter, side note, there's this thing on Twitter that this is like a corpse, what you're looking at now. Yeah. And I'm actually just a Wendigo wearing this is like a puppet string or whatever. So that's what that's in reference to.
Like
you guy from Men in Black. Theory.
Pretty much, yeah. It's kind of like Nick in the chair, you know?
Yeah.
That's the chair
hey, honestly, that's what I thought this entire time. So I didn't know that was like, debatable, but
I mean, I'm not here to judge. Whatever your lifestyle choices are.
Come as you are.
This is the second time you said that to me today, and I don't know whether or not I should be concerned or...
Nick starting a cult. That's what it means. But yeah, the other 2 videos they've demonetized that I haven't gotten back is the No Country for Old Men video. That's censored. That's copyright claims. Like that's in the aether. It's not happening. And they demonetized the Anthill Kids video, which on that one, I will admit, I was a little descriptive with certain parts of it. So whatever.
Yeah, that's just a crazy story. Anyway,
it is a wild story. There's not like a safe way to talk about it. I couldn't like kith and like bebop my way through that whole thing. So
yeah.
Yeah,
I always been like, I self-graded myself for a 3. Just let it be.
Yeah.
Well, so the issue is if you say 3 out of the bat, they don't let you put ads on it.
Oh God, never mind.
Yeah, they don't let you be like, yeah, this one's going to contain nudity, violence, language, all that. Just so you know. Now give me my ads.
It's almost like a trick question. It's like, are you 1, 2, or 3? Oh, 3. Never mind. You're out.
Yeah.
What the funniest one is under the language section. It has like it's mild, medium, and like heavy language, and it has examples. So it's so funny on YouTube's homepage next to all of their little cartoon drawings of these little people holding up like, is this you? It's like beep, beep, beep. It's just the word spelled out like, do you say this more than 3 times in the video? How about these more than 7 times? It's great. I love it.
Nice. I thought about just having a long silence there, but yeah. Nick, I know you had another question for Wendi before we really got started, and you can kind of see it, right above his little nameplate there.
Oh yeah, I was asking how often you still listen to Astroworld.
Oh yeah.
I've always appreciated that sitting there in the background of every video.
I'm actually considering, at least for a couple videos, putting a different album over. I know that one's symbolic. Well, when that one's on vinyl, yeah. But actually, it's this indie band locally for Tennessee called The Weeks. That's really good. And I thought about putting one of their album covers because I like the album cover.
Shout out.
Yeah, shout out The Weeks. They're great. But anyway, I still listen to Astroworld a lot. It's like in my rotation with stuff like, most of Kanye's discography and Tyler the Creator and guys like that. But the reason specifically that one's there is in high school, I had a buddy who me and him were really close, and he was someone who really got me into looking at music, kind of the way I look at movies, like more sonically dissecting them, thinking about all that. And he had always hyped up how great Travis Scott was as a producer, and I didn't really know at the time. So he was like, all right, the night Astroworld comes out, we're going to listen to it together. So like we got this big speaker set up, and like we had like those neon lights on everything. It was like its own mood. And listened through the whole album as soon as it came out at midnight. And it was an experience for me, like actually listening through all the tracks and everything. Yep. So whenever he went off to college to say goodbye, he got me the vinyl as a gift.
Nice.
So yeah, so that not just that I love Astroworld because I do, but also because it's got symbolic meaning to me. So
okay, that's awesome. That explains its positioning there in the room.
Yeah. Yeah. So I really do like Travis Scott, though. He's a great artist.
Yeah. 100%. That's been a nice steady climb because I've listened to him for quite some time, and I connect with that meme or the video where it's like Travis Scott in 2014. It's just like 10 people cheering, at a show, and then he's at Lollapalooza or whatever it is. So you listened to him like back before Rodeo. Yeah, correct.
Like,
days before Rodeo, and then like Al Faro, I went like back to.
Okay. Yeah.
So 2014, around that time.
Yeah, that's early enough that you can say before he was cool. Like you have the hipster mantra with him, so you're good on that. Yeah.
In 2015, we went to a weekend concert, and he was like one of the opening acts, and it's just like one of those points where people are like, "Who is this guy?" You hear him in the crowd, and you're just like, "Who is this guy?" I'm like, "Come on now!" Like,
I was thinking about that earlier too, because I heard a Lil Yachty song, and I remembered back whenever Broccoli came out. And people were like, that Kyle guy's good. And then there's the one with the weird dreadlocks who's also in the song. But now Lil Yachty's like a bigger deal than Kyle. And I just thought that was funny. But yeah, it's so weird to think back to when people were like, oh yeah, that artist. There's this YouTube video. I actually think it got taken down because copyright claim, because no one's safe from it. Made by Jay Aubrey that goes through the life of Kanye. And one of the funniest parts to me is when it talks about whenever he started in music, Jay-Z was the one who gave him like the initial boost because he made Kanye made one of the beats for the Blue album. But they talk about in the beginning that no one thought he was a good rapper. They just really liked his samples, and they didn't want him to make beats for other people. So he kind of signed him just like, okay, you can rap.
That's funny.
But you're the beat guy. You're not the rap guy.
You have this itch,
Kanye West
to rap. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, no, just Ye. It's just Ye.
Oh yeah, that's right. He changed his name. Yeah. I'm thinking about I'm like this close to making a whole video about his. I'm really, man. I tell you what. What do you think I was going to say? You're like, do it.
Change your name
to Wendigoon.
Yeah, I thought that's where that was going.
I have thought about just Wendigoon, like just making my first name Wendy.
Yeah, Mr. Wendi. Hey, Wendy.
Mr. Wendi.
That's hilarious.
Yeah, I like the idea of that.
But you should get into some. I don't know if that's like conspiracy or just like music cover vids. I know there's like a ton of those out there, but that's always just a fun thing to cover.
I like way back on the channel. I have a video where I went through the Black Parade album and talked about why I thought it was so great. And I really want to do one of those for like Kanye's discography, because if you look at Kanye I really want to do the same thing I did with that, like looking at the story within it, because going from College Dropout and what he was talking about, his issues in life and everything, all the way to Donda, and looking at not only how he matured as a person, but kind of how he views himself through his music, and how that's changed from like even 2 albums ago in Life of Pablo, he made that whole track to diss Nikes. And now in Donda, he's saying, got a gift for Northie. All she want was Nikes. This is not about me. Like, that change from Kanye is so wild.
Yeah.
So I've really thought about digging into that. I'm close. So I'll probably do it eventually.
Oh, yeah. I mean, and that's like when like Jesus is King came out, and even like Life of Pablo a little bit with some of those songs. And like even when Jesus is King came out, I was like, first, like everyone's just like, oh, he's making like a gospel religious album, but I'm like, but you have to understand, the proof is like the writing's on the wall from like all the way from his first album, right? That this is his direction. Like this is what it was eventually going to become. It's been through all his music. He's finally got to the point where the whole album is that theme. So, bro,
look, I got what really did it. What really is like, all right, I got to do something about this. Is I saw an interview he did with the magazine after, or maybe it was TMZ, some Hollywood thing after College Dropout came out, and it was an interview he did with his mom, and his mom was pestering him, and she was like, don't let him think he didn't put Jesus Walks on there because of me. I had a say in that. And he's just like slapping her hand the whole time, being like, I hate you so much. Stop. we're on camera. Stop it. But there was a line she said. She was like, I know no matter how famous he gets, he's still always going to be mama's boy. And like, man, putting that in context with her death and everything he's gone through, and the fact that now he has a gospel album named Donda out, I was like, boy, man, that gets me. But yeah, I really respect Kanye as an artist. I know he does a lot of crazy stuff, but man, that guy.
But people, they do think he's like randomized, and they just say things about him, and what he does isn't like coherent, but it kind of is if you understand his entire discography and everything he's gone through.
Absolutely.
It's very coherent, and he's always been the same way.
Honestly, like the big turning point, in my opinion, listening through all of his stuff was Ye. That came out right after The Life of Pablo. Because like you've got, the rap career and like Kanye being built up as Kanye is. And then on The Life of Pablo, there was this weird split. Even the album cover shows that, where it's saying which way, and it's like him deciding between which lifestyle he wants to go with. And then his next project after that, Ye, it's so short, but it's him talking about his bipolar disorder. It's him talking about his inability to cope and like his inability to like be the man for Kim that needs to be. But then you get to a song like Ghost Town, where it's talking about there's a freedom out of this. And then his next album is Jesus is King. Like for me, that is his divergent point where he's like, I have to get back to what matters to me. Right. And that gets me fired up. I love that stuff. It's really interesting seeing a story played out over the course of decades with an artdon't All right, fine. I'll make the video.
You got to twist your arm there.
Yeah, man. I don't know. What'd you put in this coffee, man? I'll tell you what.
Wouldn't you like to know? No. So that actually would be really cool because the Black Parade video is really interesting, and I love to approach music listening like you were talking about, just like dissecting every piece and part. Being a musician myself, I often find myself doing that, and when I listen to stuff like I listen to the same thing for like 2 months and then like burn myself out, unfortunately. But like every listen, it's like, why is this, rhythm on the hi-hat played like this in this specific, like, what are they trying to do there? So just to hear somebody else approaches music listening like that is really cool. And if you decided to do a video like that, almost similar to the analysis you've done on, movies like There Will Be Blood or No Country for Old Men? I always get those two mixed up.
No Country for Old Men.
Yeah. Like dissecting Kanye's discography in a style like that would be super fascinating to just get to listen to someone's like, I don't know, deep thoughts. Like, and I don't know. I think it'd be awesome.
I think it'd be interesting. And it's definitely something I want to do. Honestly, the only thing that's holding me back is, and look at all circles back in together, is a copyright. Because if they demonetize it, that's fine. I'm sure they will. I don't have to make money off this video. It's more of a passion project anyway. But if they take it down completely, that'll be pretty sad.
Yeah, for sure.
So
Patreon
I don't know.
Exclusive.
Yeah, but honestly, that may not be a bad idea. I don't even know what Patreon's copyright stuff is. They may hate me too. We'll have to find out.
We'll see if the Giga Ched, works on Patreon as it does on YouTube.
I'll just keep spamming them those pictures over and over. Help.
Yes. But man, okay, so we're already half hour in, and it feels like it's been 2 minutes. So this is going to be a fun night. We actually do have a topic for the evening. But before we get much further, I just wanted to shout out our patrons, which will be very quick. Tim B and Yusuf H, thank you guys so much for being top tier patrons. We appreciate your support. If anyone out there is interested in what we have to offer on our Patreon, you can head over to patreon.com/showboyspodcast. Check it out. We have 4 tiers. Starting at just $1 a month, you can help support the podcast and our game streams, which we do throughout the week on our Showboys Gaming YouTube channel. Yeah, we got a lot of cool perks and rewards. Go check them out if you're able to. It would be amazing if you could support us. But if not, we're just glad that you're here watching, and hopefully we're able to earn your subscription tonight. With that out of the way, we've been doing a thing all October for our Spooktober series. Excuse me. Each week, we either suggest a horror movie to each other, or our listeners will suggest a movie to us, and we'll watch it on Wednesday. And then on our episode on Thursday, we'll do a short review of it. This is our last week of this, our last episode here in October, and we were recommended to watch Murder Party, which, did you end up watching it last night, Nick?
I did, but I completely forgot I watched it and we were going to talk about it until this very moment.
All right, so Nick's review is going to be amazing on this movie.
I got a lot to say about Murder Party.
He couldn't even remember that he watched it until this moment.
I was like, what's he setting up right now? I was like, where are we going with this?
Yeah, no, so we watched Murder Party. Unfortunately, not together. That would have been fun. I feel like this would be a great movie to watch with friends. But yeah, Murder Party came out in 2007, I think, if I'm remembering correctly. Small little indie film. Nick, what did you think? I want to hear all that you have to say.
It's 2000. Okay, I guess my eyes are bad. I thought it said 2017, which makes much more sense that it's 2007. So I was like, are they going for a 20-year-old vibe? Yeah. This movie, Wendigoon, have you seen it?
I've not seen it, which is why I'm so conflicted emotionally right now between Mike and Nick. Just Nick, like, oh yeah, I did watch that movie. Yeah, it's great. Go ahead. I'm interested.
It's definitely a movie. All right, moving on. No,
yeah, it's a movie. Okay, so this movie is just like random enough to keep me watching, because I literally, you have like no idea what is going on. If anything is like, if there is anything bigger going on, I'm still not sure. It's just a weird conglomerate of just like personalities in the characters and almost randomized events that have almost zero meaning. And I think there's a certain appeal to that. And the fact that there is like an art, the artsy, like major kind of spin on it, that was also fun, because I was watching it with Erin, and I just kept looking at her. I was like, is this what went on in college? Like,
Erin's trying to get that grant money.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, she's willingly participating in a murder party.
I know, and they're just going about it like it was just a normal thing. I'm like, this is an interesting group of like personalities right here. They're just like all on board with randomly killing someone.
Yeah, Erin's never given you a weird like party invitation like that in the month of October, has she? Like, or Bianca?
We do have an invitation to a party at Bianca's, but did not say come alone. So I think we're okay.
Okay. Yeah. So the basic premise of the movie. Do you have like any intent on watching this, Wendy? Since we're on a first name
sure,
basis now.
I'm sure it's a decent. Yeah, I'm sure it's a decent movie. But Nick's review of it made it sound like the worst thing I've ever heard. He straight up went, "Nothing made sense. There were characters, and it was kind of artsy." Yeah, that's all he said.
You also
it's one of
have
those
to.
where like if
So you go
don't
ahead and
know
spoil
until
it. Go right ahead.
I mean, you get halfway through it, or you get so far into it, and you're like, okay, I think I know where this is going, and I'm not going to get anything out of it. But you can't stop watching because you have to like complete the cycle and finish it.
The sunken cost fallacy. We've spent this much.
Might as well keep going.
Yeah, because it's like, what if this has like the greatest ending? It had an okay ending. Yeah, I mean, I did not like it.
Did it have the greatest ending? No, but it did end.
It did end, and that was great.
You know what? I think before we finish this conversation, one thing should be decided. We should definitely like start a review site and just have Nick write all of our reviews for movies. It'll be great. It will literally be the best.
It's like Nick reviews like The Exorcist, and it's like there were characters, and some of them didn't like each other, and then it ended. It was okay.
Yeah. And there was like some throw up, so I don't know.
There was this girl, she was green for some reason, and then the guy jumped out of a window. That didn't make any sense.
Yeah, it was real weird, and then it ended, and then I was like,
6 out of 10.
He reviewed it, but he said nothing about the movie.
Yes.
That could have been literally any movie. Your review of Murder Party. There were some characters and they were connected somehow.
But they weren't.
Yes.
But they weren't. Okay.
Barely.
Okay,
Hardly.
So like the basic premise of the movie, you have this like loner character, the main character. I think his name's Chris. They don't really say his name very much, if at all.
Well, I think the point is that he's pretty much a nobody.
Yeah, he is like just a real dweeb, lives at home alone with his cat. He's walking home from the store. He just rented or bought some VHSs, which was pretty awesome. And an invitation is blowing down the sidewalk, and he happens to like step on it. He picks it up, and it's an invitation. And on the front, it says like murder party. And then on the inside, it's like, you're invited to a murder party. Come alone. And he's, of course, like, that sounds like a great idea. So then he goes home, and
he wasn't going to go, but the cat wouldn't move off his chair.
That's right.
So he decided to go to a Halloween party called Murder Party instead.
His cat, being a real douche, wouldn't get out of his chair.
I want to I won't interrupt your whole thing, but just pause. Is this played entirely serious, or does it know it's a little campy?
It knows it's campy.
Okay, all right. That's good. Yeah. That's good. All right, just making sure. All right, go ahead.
It's so funny if it was like
that's
super tense and dramatic and like
that's what I was asking. I was like, is this like a dramatically shot moment of him looking at the cat, and it's like murder party? It is. Okay, now good, perfect. All right, carry on.
So he makes a costume, which by the way is pretty great. It's a cardboard knight costume, which was beautifully crafted with duct tape and scissors and twine. So he goes to this party, and it's like 4 other people dressed up in costumes. Basically, to sum it all up, it's a bunch of art students trying to lure somebody in to this murder party so they can murder this person in some sort of artsy way, and to use it as an art project in attempts to earn a grant from this other character named Sam, I think. I'm so bad at remembering character names. Alexander.
No, okay, all right. This sounds like a fun little horror movie romp. I'm good.
This might change your mind, Wendy.
Yeah.
Because I'm giving you a little detail instead
already.
Of just there were characters and
Mike,
things.
Whatever movie Mike watched is already like 3 stars ahead of whatever Nick watched. Because these are not the same films.
Yes.
The chair that's holding up Nick's body is getting a little drowsy right now.
I gave the IMDb rating on it, and Mike's giving it the Rotten Tomatoes.
Yeah.
Which it's 100% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Are you serious? It's 100%.
6 reviews.
6 reviews.
Oh, okay, all right.
So everyone
it's about to be 7. Hold on.
Yeah. So yeah, it's a very satirical take on like artsy people and art in general, I believe. And the first maybe 2/3 of the movie really just heavy dialogue and like investment into the characters and kind of their motives, except for the main character who is going to be murdered. Right? He is like, I think he has like 5 lines in the whole movie, and he's just sitting in the chair dressed as a cardboard knight. It's great. The acting isn't terrible,
No.
but I think it's also very much tongue in cheek and like campy. So it definitely has that vibe, and they hit it pretty much nail on the head. And as the movie goes along, you know, the art students who are planning on murdering this person for Alexander learn that Alexander is basically a giant fraud and not who he says he is. And then the last third of the movie is just pure insanity. Like, it's chaos to the extreme, and it is both like funny and like gory-ish kind of.
Yeah. I would say it's gory.
Well, yeah, it's definitely gory.
Gory-ish.
But like,
tell YouTube that it's
I'm trying not to demonetize us. Okay?
That's how
all the
that's
money
how
we're
I
gonna make
describe
from
my
tonight.
videos.
Exactly.
That's how I describe my videos. Gory-ish.
Just
like
add
that.
the ish on the end, and you should be fine.
Sensitive, descriptive-ish language.
But yeah, it just devolves into pure chaos. And the last third, the first 2/3 are really good if you're into like dialogue and character development stuff. And then if you're into,
It went back to Nick's movie.
yes,
all at once. Yeah.
we're mixing in
If
Mike
you
and
like
Nick here.
characters,
Yeah,
and
if you enjoy
development,
talking to people, you know. But no, if you're coming into this movie and expecting the crazy chaos throughout the entire movie, you're going to be disappointed because the first 2/3 are very heavy in dialogue and character development. But the crazy chaotic stuff is completely satisfied in the last third, and it kind of ends in a way that you kind of see coming, but also is kind of surprising at, you know, a little bit at the end. I don't want to give away exactly what happens at the end, but it all comes full circle, and we end with our character returning back to his apartment and wanting to sit in his chair that his cat is still sitting in. But instead, this time when he asks his cat nicely to move, the cat looks at him and sees how disheveled and obviously long night the main character had. He, of course, decides to be nice and gets out of his chair. And then our character sits down, kicks his feet up, and that's the end of the movie. It's pretty great.
I like that. That's pretty good. That's pretty good. Hold on. I want to do this real quick. All right, Mike, what would you rate it 1 to 10? 1 to
10? I would say maybe like a 6.5.
Okay.
It's not the best, but it's not the worst.
It's fun. It's fun, right?
Yeah,
it's fun.
It's a fun
watch.
watch.
Okay. I want to hear Nick. 1 to 10.
6.2.
6.2. Okay.
Yeah, 6.2 out of your 3-sentence, like.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. I wanted to.
No,
I was hoping
it's a 10.
Like,
it's a 10.
Yeah, I was hoping to be like, it's a solid 9, easy. Like,
easy 9.
After its description
Loved
there's some characters who do some things, and that's the move.
I totally agree with the Lauren box here. Nothing like going to a murder party because your cat is a douche.
Hey, I love campy B movies like that. That
Yeah.
stuff is like fantastic.
Of course, it's the art students. It always is. They're so pretentious. And then the Lauren box again. I want them to make a movie review channel and ending every video like, it's a movie. If you like moving images, then you're gonna like this one. 3 out of 5. Would recommend.
Would recommend.
Well, hey,
that's
make
basically
sure
my review.
That
make
was
sure
your review.
you guys need to subscribe to the Showboys Nick movie reviews YouTube channel that will be live tomorrow morning. We get all of your spicy movie reviews from the man himself. But no, that's
give him my channel. They'll be so
Here's
confused.
this conspiracy theory. It has some things in it, and they're not great. Yeah, pretty conspiracy-y.
10 out of 10.
I'm not going to talk about what the
What about you,
conspiracy
Ken?
theory is about because it'll get me demonetized.
Yeah.
Bro, there's like, I'm like, when I started doing iceberg videos, there was like 3 out there. And I was just like, I'll do one. They look fun. But the majority of them, when they get to the bottom, that is what they are. They're like, there's this topic, and I don't want to talk about it. So on to the next one. That's the whole thing.
Maybe that'll be our next movie review. We'll just be like, yeah, so this movie, I don't really want to talk about it.
You should watch it, though.
The end.
10 out of 10.
But yeah, BioCiv, one of our faithful listeners and our streaming partner, recommended this movie to us. Thanks, buddy. Hopefully you enjoyed our reviews there. But last thing I will say about Murder Party, I could definitely see this being a fun watch with some friends. So it's kind of like a party movie, for lack of a better word.
Well, they party for most of the movie.
They definitely do.
The partying gets slowly more intense.
I
The drug
do
dealer's
like-
my favorite character.
Was he a character that did some things and
Yeah.
was related
Yeah.
to some people? Interesting.
Hi-
Like every
his
other character.
His character is about as deep as my review. That's why I like him so much.
Nick watches a movie. He's like, what's with all this 3-dimensional character? Just what are they? What do they do? That's all I need.
Why are they in this scene? Are they going to do anything? Okay, no. Bye.
Clearly, Hotel in California is about a magical hotel that
Yes.
disappears in the desert. That's it. That's the entire meaning.
That's all we got to say about it, guys. Leave it.
Yes, indeed. But you should watch it.
I do like, there's a special place in my heart for what you said, like movies to watch with friends. Because like my favorite movie is No Country for Old Men. That's not the kind of movie you get 10 guys together with. And it's like, oh, this will be great. Yeah, it's just like 40 minutes of a guy walking through a desert. I like one of my favorite Halloween like group parties to put on is like VHS. And the reason for that is because it's like, it's I almost said analog because that's on my brain. Thank you. Yeah, it's start with an A. Thank you. You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
It's anthology, so it's like quick. It's like fast. It's fast paced. Things are happening all the time, and stuff like that's really good. So yeah, I could definitely see Murder Party being something like that.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I haven't seen the other VHSs, but Mike tricked me into watching VHS
I
Viral.
picked the wrong one.
You did pick the wrong one.
But I guess that's a good point because I could see like at a party, VHS is playing, and I could see a good portion of the party stopping and watching what's happening for like 5 minutes because just how ridiculous that is. It's like, wait, what kind of party are we at right now?
Yeah, that's what. See, I'm that guy. I love being that guy in situations, just making it weird for everyone else.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, I know we're all having a great time socializing, but that lady just got her face melted off on the box.
Yep.
Let's go. Let's go look at that.
Did you see the new one, 94?
Yes, I did,
Good.
and I love it a lot.
Nice.
It's fantastic. Have you seen it yet?
I have not. No.
It is. So, like, if I had to rank them, I like a couple clips from VHS2 a lot. Specifically, the I think it's called Father is the name of it. The one about the cult in the Philippines, I believe. That's like my favorite one from 2. But if I had to rank them, I would say VHS 1, 94, 2, then Viral. Because I like VHS 1 is a special place in my heart, but 94 was awesome. It felt like I was watching sort of a weird, campy. I don't really want to say like 80s movie because it was much more intense than an 80s movie would be. With the imagine it like the campy feel of an 80s movie with modern desensitizations to gore and all that stuff. And it was really cool for that reason. I enjoyed it. Like I said, perfect party movie.
Yeah.
Right.
That's the problem, Nick. I thought in my mind, because it had been so long since I've seen the VHS stuff, that Viral was 2. I was thinking of
Gotcha.
2.
2.
Do
Yeah.
you care?
2 is a good
I
one.
do. I know this is a horrible. I don't even think I've ever done this on a podcast before. Do you care if I run to the bathroom very quickly? I have drank a lot of coffee. I'm going to sprint. Totally Thank you very much. Convince Nick to watch VHS while I'm gone. I'll be right back.
No problem.
I'm gonna watch it.
Had to zoom him out there in case he wasn't wearing pants, because you know how video calls go. Didn't want to.
Yeah, he has to go to the bathroom really bad, and he forgot he wasn't wearing pants
on.
And
yeah,
stands up.
Yeah, exactly.
Poor guy.
Ray, how's it going, buddy? Remember you from last time? Thanks for stopping by. Toki Young's 80s movies without the 80s. That would be tragic, because the 80s were awesome. But I get what you're saying for sure. But yeah.
So you thought I know two is the one I need to watch. Then.
That's the one that I was.
Watch one more.
Yeah, that was really the one I was thinking of. Who was it? Was it Cozy Contagion or maybe some other listener when we were talking about that on the whatever episode that was? They were saying, yeah, no, they were saying that Viral was the third one. Remember? And I was like, no, I'm pretty sure that's the second one. Stand corrected. But yeah, VHS 2 was the one, especially if it's, you know, he was talking about the cult with the Philippines, and yeah, that VHS 2 had a lot of great shorts on it, and were amazing. So I'll definitely give that one a try. Haven't seen VHS 94, but apparently I was following one of the directors of a segment before it even came out on Twitter. Wow, look at you, head of the game.
And I mean, maybe this is why I'm really bad at reviewing these types of movies, because I don't know what to say about them. Because I don't watch them a lot. But throughout this month and watching these different movies I typically would never watch, I think I'm slowly getting the allure, because while I guess I wouldn't say I enjoy them, I do enjoy them. Like, I always want to finish them. I always want to see how they end. And it's like that camp. Like, I don't like what I'm watching, but I'm enjoying it somehow. I do not know how to describe it at all, but it's a weird feeling. Maybe this is like the horror bug creeping into my mind, and I'm gonna become like a huge fan. Soon.
Yeah, well, hopefully, fingers crossed.
I'm so sorry about that.
No, it's all
you all
good,
are fantastic. Man. Thank you.
No,
Mike took you off screen in case you weren't wearing pants.
Yeah.
So that's
very sweet. That would be hilarious if I wasn't. But thank you very much.
Yeah, but I get what you're saying, Nick. We just kind of were glossing over VHS again, and Nick was saying how, like, in terms of reviewing horror stuff, like, horror isn't really his cup of tea. So he was saying he's like, I don't really know what to say about them. But
what's interesting about that I asked Nick is, are you not scared by horror, or like the tension not get to you necessarily?
Things like The Conjuring, like, I'm terrified of, but I love watching it. Like, that's what I'm kind of into. I like that feeling of just existential, like, fright that's just looming, dread. But it's like the campy stuff I don't fully grasp or understand, because I just really haven't watched a lot of it in my life. But I'm starting to learn, like, that's what a lot of people like, is the camp stuff, the almost like over the top, unrealistic things. You know, like V.H.S Viral is, and just like a lot of these movies are. And I've always liked I like The Conjuring because it's based on true stories, and it's you know, it's real as they can convince me it is, and I can believe, like, oh, you know, maybe this all really did happen, and that's scary to me. Whereas, like, these other things are just maybe more gory or campy, and, like, that's just where I just don't process it correctly.
Gotcha.
I don't know.
I have two things.
No, I get that. Go ahead, Mike.
Okay. Yeah, two things before we move on to the next portion of the show. But then, of course, like, if you had a thought there, feel free to.
Oh no! I was just listening to Nick. I'm like, okay, yeah, I vibe with that. Makes sense to me.
One of the things that I also liked about Murder Party 2, where, you know, the satirical nature kind of comes into play. I think, like, I could be interpreting it wrong, but what I interpreted it as, I said that word really weird.
Interpreted it.
Nick, the scene where the knight gets chased into like the live art exhibit right in that room, and then the craziness takes place. The thing that I love the most is there's a sign on the wall and it said art with a question mark, and they kept flashing to it right in the midst of all the craziness that was happening. And like I took that as kind of like a tongue-in-cheek way of them being like, are these like just kind of like super gory slasher almost torture porn movies? Because this wasn't quite up to that level, but was the director kind of being like, I mean, all the people that claim movies like Serbian film or stuff like that is like just over the top, disgusting torture, like gore stuff and other dark and disturbing things like that claim like, oh no, this is art. Like, is it though? Or like, is this really art? And like, I really once it got to that scene, I was kind of like on the fence if I really like enjoyed the movie or not. But then I was like, if they're saying like what I think they're saying, they might not have been. I may have totally been mistaking what was going on there. But to me, I was like, I like that, because I often question the people who say things like that. But anyways, that was one thing.
I like that. That's a pretty cool touch. As you described it, I like the idea, because that's sort of a meta way to comment on yourself. Which is pretty cool. I dig that. I vibe with that. That's nice.
Yeah.
Well, by the end of it, there are these
give
like
that thing
weird...
a 7 out of 10. 7 out of 10 for me. Never seen the movie. Go ahead.
Yep. Love it.
Well, now you have to watch it, because I want to see if you fall more on like my side or Nick's side.
Yeah, I'll watch it. Like, you had me at Campy Murder Party. I'm in.
Yeah,
that's all it takes.
It has some weird meta narratives though in it, because especially by the end of it, because you're like, okay, I see what they were doing through all that dialogue, because there is like some weird satire about art students and what they do to like get grants or impress or compete with each other, because there's some weird drug fueled like paranoia talk where they're critiquing each other or like admitting the things that they hate about themselves, because like the one admits that she wants all art to suck because it makes her what she does better, so she wants everyone else's art to suck. And it's like this weird kind of like battle that maybe artsy people have or something like that, but it's also like satirical, obviously very big exaggeration on maybe I don't know.
Hopefully. I mean,
I've never been involved in an artsy murder party.
Yeah, I hope art students aren't throwing murder parties.
I hope they are though.
Ray shouts out here. He says that alien one from the first VHS still scares me beyond belief. Okay, so now I'm even more confused, because
that's the fourth one. Yes, I remember that. What? Go ahead.
Because now I'm just like mishmashing VHS 1 and 2 together.
Okay, all right. So VHS 1, I've seen this movie so many times. Oh, look, Mike's dead. Look.
He died.
He disappeared.
He legit's out of the studio.
Is that what
he closed his browser? I think.
Oh, okay. What happened there? That was so funny. You got passionate and then just disappeared.
My passion just shut down StreamYard.
That's hilarious. Anyway, so the first one is the very first one is the guy who goes to pick up the girl at the bar, and she's the gargoyle thing. Rip Mike gone. The second one is, oh my word, am I forgetting them now?
See, no one knows.
Okay, well, the third one's the thing with no, I do remember. The second one's the couple who goes to that mining town, and then it turns out the girl kills him to go run away with her like secret lover. The third one is the one with the teens, and they have the handheld cameras, and there's like a glitch that gets closer to them. It's never really described what it is. The fourth one's the alien one, like he describes. Actually, I think that one may be in VHS 2.
See,
you know what else? I know. Okay, I know that the closing of the first one is the Halloween party where they go to the house where an exorcism's being performed.
Yeah,
that's the closeout of the first VHS, and then VHS 2. The only one I really remember from VHS 2 is the Papa one where they go and there's the satanic cult that's trying to have a mother for the Antichrist or whatever.
Yeah,
that one stuck with me because goat imagery bothers me a lot.
Yeah.
So that one, like, that one got
to
to me.
know. Good to know.
Thanks,
There was-
Nick. Appreciate it.
There was that one, the alien one, and then the other one that made me feel very uncomfortable was the one where the guy, I think he like goes to an eye doctor or something, and when he gets back to his apartment, like all he sees are like ghosts or something that reside in his apartment. And
Oh yeah. That's true. Yeah, the eye implant
yeah,
that he starts to see everything through. Yeah.
yeah. So yeah, I'm thinking about 2. Then 2 is the one you need to watch. And
I
for
really
some reason,
hope-
I thought that was viral, and I made a big mistake, and I'm not proud of it. Okay.
I really hope they come out with like the VHS collection, but it's
On
one movie
VHS.
and they reorder all the stories so no one
Oh,
really
that'd
ever
be
will
cool.
know.
I like. Honestly, it would fit that way. That's a pretty
Yeah.
cool idea. Because the plot of all, well, I forget viral because everyone forgets viral.
I know.
But
I just
1,
watched
2,
it.
fair enough. But in 1, 2, and 94, and you can correct me about viral, but the plot is that the through line is trying to find these hidden messages on old VHS tapes. So in 1, 2, and 94, it's like they're like, oh, let's see what's on this tape, and they put it in the TV, and then we watch one of the shorts. So like there's no reason for them to be in any order. So you could do that. You could just switch them all around and it wouldn't change anything. So that'd actually be pretty cool.
If the VHS collection comes out and is in one of those old Disney clamshell cases, that'd be great.
Oh god.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah, I can't
forgot
recall the
about
plot
those.
of viral because, as we can tell from my reviews, I don't really pick up on plots.
No, I got Nick's review right here. There were some characters, they weren't really connected. They did some stuff and some talking. 9 out of 10. That's the review.
Would rewatch.
Oh.
Usually that's how I rate things. Would I rewatch it or would I not?
Okay.
Well, my dog has been barking, and I hope that there's not some creepy alien or
Murder.
Murder party upstairs getting ready to come down my steps and get me. Which, by the way, I need to take this banner down for a second. Over the weekend, I'm gonna go full screen. I made some new shelves for my pops back here. Wow, pointing on camera is really difficult. So, I don't know if you recall last time when I was viciously attacked by my Funko Pops in the middle of our episode. That shouldn't happen this time. We have sturdy shelving now. So, if a Funko Pop or multiple come flying off the shelf, something is seriously wrong. And I will need somebody to send help.
You've got a poltergeist. Good luck.
Yes. So we're going to have our fingers crossed that doesn't happen. Yeah, any other things before I move on? I kind of like.
Oh, yeah, hold up. I had to look it up because it was driving my brain crazy. The alien one is in VHS 2. That is correct. The 4th short that I couldn't remember from VHS 1 is the guy who is Skyping his girlfriend across the country. And at the end, he cuts her back open. Yeah, that whole thing. That's it. That's the 5 of them. See, I know what I'm talking about sometimes. That felt wrong.
Okay, so you confirming the alien was in 2. Definitely was the one I was trying to recommend Nick watch.
Okay, and the other one, all right, so the eye one, the eye implant, the Papa one I freaked out about, the alien one, and the zombie one. Remember, it's the helmet cam of the zombie as he's going around eating people. Yep. We got look at us putting it together.
Teamwork.
Got it all good to go.
So Lauren Box, wait a minute.
That could have been in response to anything, really.
Did he just say he was attacked by Funko Pops?
Kind of, yeah, sort of.
You heard that right. Go back. It was episode 43, I think.
At about the 4 hour and 20 minute mark.
Yeah, we were about at our lunch break in the episode, and Wendigoon was talking about something scary, and like 7 Funko Pops fell off my shelf. Now, caveat, they were like stacked on old Funko Pop boxes that were not very stable, and they fall down. They used to fall down all the time because the boxes were kind of like, caving in. They weren't exactly completely
The weight
level.
of the pop.
Yeah. So it definitely was something that's happened before, and nothing paranormal. But if it happens now, I'm going to be very
It's
scared.
definitely something paranormal.
Yes.
It's
With
definitely
Wendigoon.
Nick's chair. Comes through.
I like this persona Nick's chair has developed throughout this episode.
Yeah, it's just have you seen what's that really cheesy? Dead Silence.
Mm-mm.
Okay, one of the funniest horror movies ever. Because do you know how like I asked with Murder Party, like, does it play it serious? Even though this is the wildest topics. All right, Dead Silence plays everything serious, and it's about a woman who was like obsessed with puppets, so now her ghost kills people and turns them into puppets. But the plot, I have to go ahead and say this. It's the funniest thing. Even if I tell you, you won't believe me watching the movie. Like, it's not going to end that way. The way it ends is that the main antagonist, the one trying to get the girl to like go to the haunted house or whatever throughout the whole movie, this is a guy who's been walking and talking through the entire movie, that he is dead, and his daughter carved out his body and was using him as a ventriloquist doll. So the fact his daughter was always standing next to him is because his back is gone and she's moving his jaw. And she's just such a good ventriloquist. It looks like a living person walking, talking, expressing all of it.
Yeah, that's almost what happened last time you were on with Nick. By the end of the episode, we almost had to call Aaron down there.
I can see that the chair has improved its ventriloquist act since last show. It's doing quite well. He's expressive in everything.
Yes.
He even gives reviews.
Yeah.
He even gives reviews.
The chair needs
That's
to
why
work
the
on
reviews are like that. The chair hasn't seen the movie, so he's like, there were characters and people.
Yes.
It was okay, I guess.
So I think, it's probably time we get into the actual topic of the episode.
All right.
Which we thought would be fun since this is, 3 days away from Halloween? Yeah. To talk about what we think, it's kind of like a two-parter. So what we think the scariest horror genre is, and then to add on to that, what would be the most terrifying genre of horror if it became real life? If it were to actually happen. So Nick has a lovely graphic for us here.
Fancy.
Oh, we're gonna go to the side.
Okay.
So we have the genres and subgenres of horror here. So you want to kind of go through it, Nick?
Sure. Obviously, the horror genres are colored for us, and there is some bleeding of the color where I think they kind of cross over. But we have gore and disturbing, psychological, killer, monster, and paranormal. I like how zombies, though, gets its own little mini branch and color in monster. And then obviously with all that, it kind of breaks it down into some more specific things. And the other favorite section was, as I got through the monster, we got into neo monsters, animals in nature, and small creatures. And I was like, you know what? Small creatures are kind of terrifying at times, I guess.
Interesting. Okay. I like this graph. This is a very good graph.
So
it's not a pyramid, but it'll do.
I mean, close enough, right? That looks very pyramid-y to me.
Well, Mike can't do shapes, but
Northeast Ohio education for you. So gore and disturbing breaks down into torture, splatter, cannibal, and extreme. Psychological breaks down into phobia, madness, and paranoia, home invasion, and survival. Killer breaks down into slasher, crime, and what's
Giallo.
Giallo. Okay, what is that?
It's specifically old, like there was this thing that happened. So the French were really like the pioneers.
Is this
of a lot
another
of
Nick review?
No.
There was this thing, and then
all right, fair enough. All right, I will behave myself to not sound like Nick's chair. The way it worked is like the French were the pioneers for a lot of the modern horror stuff. Horror was very psychological in the US for a while until around the late 60s. The French were like, what if we showed people getting murdered on screen? And then that it inspired like American Grindhouse movies like Texas Chainsaw Massacre and all that. But that's its own thing. So Giallo's like the forerunner to that. And it's movies that really exemplify like it's murder, but not just murder, if that makes sense. It's not like a slasher film. It's a movie about like someone viciously killing someone, and it's very like you can almost think of it as like very early torture porn, sorta. So it's like exemplifying murder, basically. So,
yeah, and a much more artsy name than torture porn.
Yes, so. yeah. If you tell someone like I enjoy Giallo films, that's a nice way of saying that you watch the Saw movies on your weekends.
Yeah, super fancy way of saying. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
And I know what you said is true because branching off from that is Bumpkin and Redneck, and then the Texas Chainsaw Massacre is cited there as an example.
Yeah, there you go. See,
this might be my favorite like sub genre, Bumpkin and Redneck. That's
I like how the way they bleed into each other. There's a little bit of bleed over into monster. Because like rednecks are just inhuman enough.
Appalachians are just wild enough.
I definitely it's fair for us to like say that as we're all kind of in the almost the bumpkin redneck.
Oh, I'm Heartland, deep Appalachia, and I say we are in fact monsters. So be on the lookout.
Yeah, animals.
My name's Wendigoon after all. So
that's not going to help your that whole Twitter conspiracy going around right now. That you just
that I'm a dead corpse and there's like a Wendigo like bungee corded to the ceiling right now, like
exactly.
That's so good.
But what I will say, what I kind of like the monster bleeding over into Bumpkin and Redneck, because with movies like Deliverance and The Hills Have Eyes, a lot of the horror comes from dehumanizing the killers, to a point where it's like a question in the audience's mind, like who could do such a thing, like what kind of monsters could do this, and that's where a lot of the horror comes from. So I like that it's a little bit monster. That's a nice touch. I like this graph.
Even like The Hills Have Eyes, like they look monstrous, you know, the ancestral killers, rednecks there are pretty kind of gross to look at and kind of look like monsters in a physical way, let alone
this reminds me of I'm gonna bring any chance I get to bring up True Detective. This is like that's directly like a line in True Detective because they finally get to the one guy they're chasing after, and he is from the bayou, and he's like this big lumbering guy who supposedly is the killer. And I think Matthew McConaughey has an exact line like that, like, you know, at the end of kind of like the story or whatever, there's always a monster or something like that. And that's basically what this is. And that lines up. Yeah. The dehumanization of people to the point where they are the monsters. Aren't we all though?
Exactly.
I like, there's a lot in, I've actually been thinking about concepts like that for upcoming videos, but there is a lot of that when you look in history, that anytime there is a group of people who need to beat another group of people, one of the first moves is always to make them look like monsters in whatever regard. It's like, and sometimes it resorts to lying, and other times it's just cultural stuff. Like if you look like way back in like old Persian wars, like in hundreds and hundreds of years ago. Stuff like 300. They would say stuff like, "Oh, can you believe that they don't have a democracy system like what we have? What savages! Those people aren't even human."
Or like they file their teeth and they,
just different ways to make them. One of my favorites. The reason the Persians were called the Immortals is because after battles they would drag their dead off the battlefield, so that to the enemy it looked like no Persian ever died in combat. So they just live forever, and that's a horror. Imagine you go to a field and it's just your guys. There's no one else. That's horrifying. And stuff like that, you can use, like they use the monsterization as a good thing. My single favorite, because I love giants so much, is Alexander the Great. After battles, he carried giant chest plates and shields with him, like comedically large ones, and he would leave them on the battlefield and in their camps. So when the enemy came, to be like, these guys are 40 feet tall, we can't fight that. which is hilarious.
Yeah.
But like you can use the monsterization like that, but a lot of the times they also used it against the enemy as a tool. And that's what's in that, again, going back to that bumpkin and redneck. I love that because in the movies, a lot of the fear that characters use is from dehumanizing themselves. It's like they both mutually agree they're not normal people, and that works on both ends. Yeah. All right.
They don't want to be seen as normal. Yeah. They don't want to be seen as normal.
Exactly. Yeah.
It further breaks down in the monster subgenre. Like Nick said, we have zombies kind of has its own section of undead versus virus. Monsters further break down into the typical vampire, werewolf, classic and mythological, giant monsters, neo monsters, animals in nature, and small creatures, like Nick said. And then off to the corner, we have sci-fi and aliens, which bleeds into the paranormal section, which is ghosts and spirits, haunted houses, possession, devil, demon, hell, witches and occult, and supernatural power. So that's kind of the infographic we have up here for anyone listening on an audio platform when this releases. So that I mean, I'm sure there are other subgenres of horror, but I think these kind of cover like the big ones. So we'll start with you, Wendigoon, as you are our esteemed guest. What genre tends to get to you the most in terms of like actually frightening you?
Okay, so I have this conversation with my girlfriend all the time about it, and she's kind of converted me a bit. So when it comes to things that work for me as far as scaring me go, it's found footage. And I know that's more of like an odd, so I won't harp on it long. I know that's more of a sort of method of delivering the scares. But the reason is every other movie, and that is with accepting the fact the majority of found footage is terrible and it's used as an excuse to make a very cheap movie. But when done effectively, it is the easiest way to break down the audience safety net. Because every time you watch a movie and there's characters on screen, you're like, wow, that's such a scary thing that happens to them that is happening to those people. But when you share like a first person perspective with the characters throughout the entire movie, like any scare that happens, guess who gets scared first? You get scared first, and then the characters react to it. And that, like, as far as thinking about scares that have worked for me, and honestly, analog horror is kind of the same way. There's no barrier between like, oh, let's watch how this person is going to get afraid. Yeah. It's entirely focused on you. And that always seems to work best for me. I think that's one of the reasons I like analog horror so much. A good example, and honestly, probably my favorite found footage movie is Wreck, the Spanish zombie movie. Yeah, I love that movie. But one of the coolest aspects to it is, for one, there's a reason they keep filming. So you feel like the characters are equally as invested as you are with what's happening on screen. But it did such a good job of never breaking that idea of following them around. Like, there were things like cuts, sure, but I understood the layout of everything so much that whenever they're like running near the end of the movie and they're running by rooms, I'm thinking in my head, like, don't go in that door. That's where that one was from earlier. And as soon as I think that, the character says, not that one, and they keep running. And I'm like, oh, we both came to the same conclusion at the same time. That was a cool trick. And then when we both get scared at the same time, it still applies. So probably like found footage movie. As far as like this goes, like genres and subgenres, I kind of like hinted at it earlier. There's no hiding now. But things like demonic particularly get to me. Not really ghost. I think a lot of that has to do with like me being a Christian and having like I think it's real, you could say. So seeing stuff about demons messing with people and all that is I always feel like a weird grossness whenever I encounter, like, to any degree. Like, you'll see pictures, especially around now, of like girls in bikinis and they have goat horns on. It's like, haha, I'm the devil. I hate that every time I see that. I'm like, yeah. Because I don't like the goat horns. I don't like all the imagery. So when you're doing that for real, it gets to me. A good example is like The Witch that came out a few years ago. Like, it was literally a goat. It was literally just a goat. But having like all those ideas and themes, and then combined with just seeing the horns over and over, made me feel so gross inside, and it gets me in a way that nothing else can. But for that reason, it's also one of my favorite genres, because kind of like Nick said with The Conjuring, like it scares me, so I like it.
Yeah.
But yeah, anything to do with like the demons and hell, even like what was that campy Sam Raimi movie? Oh, Drag Me to Hell.
Yeah.
Like as haha goofy that movie was, like the talking goat and all that stuff. Yeah, like that. Like everything.
Literally dragging them to hell. Like,
but yeah, that end scene destroyed me. Like that is one of the scariest shots ever. But yeah, I love stuff like that. Now, do you want to you two guys to answer? Do you want me to go into real life? Is the scariest?
No. Well, let's go through the genres first, and then we'll go into what would be the scariest if it became real.
Gotcha.
So before we move on, I love the fact that you brought up analog horror being like very similar to found footage, because if you didn't say that, I was going to say that. So that's awesome that you brought that up. And we had a whole episode on analog horror way back, like when we first started doing the podcast. And one of the things that because Nick wasn't as familiar with it as I was at the time, and one of the things I was trying to explain to him about why I love it so much and I think it's so effective is exactly what you said. It's like I hadn't even realized the parallels between it and found footage, but putting you as the main character instead of watching other people, like things happen to other people. And I almost compare it a little bit to like, I don't know, playing a video game, and why I think gaming is such a great tool for storytelling is you are driving the story, like all the thing, like it's your actions that are progressing the plot, and like all the things that you're doing in a video game like are because of what you're doing. And it's kind of similar in analog horror where like there are no characters for the most part on the screen. Like I use like Local 58 as an example. Like it's just a local broadcast station, as if you had your TV on like channel 3 at 2:30 in the morning one night or something, and then contingency happens and you're like, what is going on? And like but like you are the character. Everything is happening to you. You're not watching anything happen to somebody else. You experience it as if it's what is happening to you. And like you were saying, watching like The Conjuring, stuff like that's really scary, but you're just watching it happen to other people and you're like, man, that would really suck. But you know, it's happening to them and not to me.
Yeah, like you're exactly right. Because when you watch a movie like, and I don't mean to like derail it from like your answer or anything, but like when you watch a movie like The Ring, right, where it's like she puts in the tape and then the voice is like, oh, you've got 7 days, or motion tape, where if you're like, oh my gosh, that'd be so scary if you're like, that'd be so scary if that happened to me, right? But then you go and like you watch an analog horror, and like when Local 58 says look at the moon, or when Contingency says like the 3 F's like feet together, face up, all that, that's you. It is directly saying you go look at the moon and all that. Yeah.
Breaks the fourth wall.
Yeah. And
yes, exactly. Yeah.
I'm glad that you brought up found footage, and I would even throw analog horror up on this thing as being that. I don't think that's my answer, and I want Nick to go first, but it's one of those for me.
There is something so interesting. And I'm sure analog horror eventually is going to get saturated because everyone's kind of realizing that, oh, this is cool and it's not that hard to make. Kind of like they did with found footage, right? But what's so interesting about it to me is it also kind of betrays your nostalgia a little bit. Because like we have all these ideas of like, oh, these old little local broadcast, like around here, Heartland's on all the time, and it's got that fuzzy intro like guitar playing, and it's just some old man whittling wood for 30 minutes. Like that's such a pleasant little place. But if you do that old man and then it starts glitching and he's talking about how you need to kill yourself for your country, like that hurts a little bit. It stings.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's why I think, honestly, I don't think any one of them tackles that better than Local 58. because it really hammers home on like you are watching a television show at night that's supposed to not be scary.
Yeah, like Gemini Home Entertainment's really good, but it doesn't have the same level as
it does. What I think Gemini does great is kind of scale and implications. Like of the horror itself, the story it's telling is very interesting. Like you see this underground mining thing and it sees roots underground. And you're like, what does that mean? And then in the deep space one, you see roots on another planet and you're like, oh no, what does that mean? And just like you start to piece things together. I think it does that one probably the best. But like, Local 58 definitely nails the analog part the best. I would agree.
There was another one, and the name is escaping me, but was there one called Eventide, or was that
Eventide Media Center? Yes.
Okay. Yes, I also kind of like that one. It's not as good as Local 58, but it also had the like
Eventide's good. I like them a lot. Yeah.
It had the whole like Weather Channel thing, which was they did pretty well.
I agree. They're good stuff.
I'd love to hear Nick's review of that. It was cloudy, and then the screen turned purple, and then. Anyways, Nick, what's your scariest horror genre?
Well, I'm trying to figure out if analog horror is its own color or if it's somewhere in these colors.
I think.
Is it that significant? Like, does it get its own?
I feel like it would be if you could mix psychological with
monster and paranoia,
kind of. Maybe.
I think it fits right in there with phobia most of the time. Nope. It is a combination between phobia and madness and paranoia. Definitely.
So it's a psychological thing then.
It has to be a psychological thing because all the horror, most cases, just comes from words and just giving you ideas to think about. And like I said, it kind of betraying that nostalgia. Like you're just up at 2 a.m. Watching the TV that your dad left on. It like takes you back to childhood. Just so innocent. Yeah. Have no idea what's about to happen to you. Which is honestly the way I felt about Lost Tapes, but that's another story. It's like, Animal Planet, what's this? And then I was never the same. Now I have a horror channel. But I think it fits right in there because a lot of it does institute paranoia in you. At least as you're watching it.
Like I'm looking at the moon. Like, am I missing something? Should I see something in the moon? Am I going to kill myself soon?
But that's
is the moon going to kill me?
That's where like I think like the giant monsters and like Lovecraftian nature of the story, not so much of what really is like being shown to you on screen, though sometimes that does come on, but like the implications of all of these stories are basically Lovecraftian in nature. But yeah, I would say like 80% phobia, madness, and paranoia for sure.
Did you see I promise I'm not trying to keep plugging my channel, but did you see the Mandela catalog video that I did?
No,
I started that.
That's right. That's right. You said at the beginning of the show that you are going to watch the original first. Yeah. So not to spoil anything, but I feel like my theory of how the story goes is, I don't want to say better because I love Gemini and Local 58 and all that stuff, but there is a bit of an issue with making the conflict otherworldly. In my opinion, I kind of wish there was a something, an analog horror series that's just about like people, something that's like very grounded. But I feel like my theory behind what's happening in the Mandela catalog is I say it's the most disturbing one to me. And if you remember what I said, the scariest horror genres are to me, you can probably put it together. But it is like the specific idea of this really could happen, and it's like worst case scenario. So I really like Mandela for that reason, like of what the story implications are.
Nice. Yeah, I can't wait to get into that series. Timestamps have been taking up all my YouTube time though.
I understand.
But Nick, yes. What's your scariest genre? I mean, I think I already know, but
Well, first I'm gonna rip through some comments here because I've
Oh,
been
yeah, good
quietly
idea.
laughing at them. And Hughes here says this is an excellent infographic, but where are the robots? Giant monsters, technically.
We'll
No,
throw them
they-
in sci-fi.
I think they go in sci-fi and aliens. Also, High Ray. That's Ronald Reynolds, by the way.
Yeah.
He's great. He's with me on everything. So High Ray. I would say they absolutely go in sci-fi and aliens. But another thing that I didn't say earlier that I like, how the same way Bumpkin and Rednecks bleed into monster a bit, sci-fi and aliens bleed into paranormal a bit. And I like that because it's like whatever consciousness they have isn't understood by us. It
Right.
kind of rushes on that supernatural. So I like the idea of robots being there and also being that. I love it.
Yes.
Yeah, that's the fun thing about this graphic. And like there's like home invasion survival because the Lauren box here says, man, I love a good home invasion movie.
Before I came
Just
down
take
here
off
for the
movie.
episode.
Man, I love a good home invasion.
Well, hey, my dog was barking earlier, so you might have seen one live on
The
air.
Lauren box is like standing outside of your house with the Scaremaster. Man, I love a good home invasion.
Well, remind me not to check my ring. But no, before we came down here, I was talking to my wife. I asked her what her scariest thing is, and it was so funny because she couldn't remember any movie names. So she was just like giving me Nick descriptions, and I was trying to figure out what she's talking about. And her first one was like, there's this movie where these people adopted this girl, and then the mom and the girl got trapped inside, and the dad was trying to get her.
Ooh.
And I was like, what? And somehow I was able to like piece out like Silent Hill out of that description. And I was right.
Nice.
And then
Silent Hill.
the second one was the only reason I guessed that is there's no way I'd be able to guess that. But she's like, I think it was about a video game or something. I was like, okay, Silent Hill.
Okay, all right, fair.
But then the second one, she was like, oh yeah, and then there's this one movie we watched when you lived in that one apartment. We watched it on your computer. And it was like they were like in the woods and they had like masks on, and I was like, you're gonna have to give me a little more than that.
Woods and masks.
Yeah. But I ended up getting that she was talking about The Strangers, which fall into home invasion.
Oh,
and some of those
yeah,
movies are definitely actually The Strangers is right there on the infographic. I didn't even notice.
I'm not gonna go into the whole thing with it. There's this very interesting opinion piece I heard about how you can look at horror in the past 50 years in the United States, and you can attribute trends in horror to real life fears, and as they're happening. And it's very interesting. Someone pointed out that home invasion was like no one ever made movies about that stuff in the 80s and 90s. And then after 9/11, every single horror movie we made was about people attacking in some way. I'm like, oh, that's interesting.
That is very
And
interesting.
now that COVID is the primary concern, or things related to COVID for most people, it's like inhuman fears. Now we're seeing monster movies and slashers come back and everything else. I'm like, that's an interesting point. So yeah, like it made me think of like home invasion in a different way. I don't think people are conscious of this. I don't think they're like, oh, the World Trade Center got hit. Well, better make a home invasion movie.
Oh, Hollywood.
Yeah. Oh, Hollywood, you dog.
You got it.
That's the next conspiracy theory.
Right, exactly. Wait, I think I had some crazy conspiracy theory about like pandemic movies coming out like right before COVID.
A few of them did, and it's weird. It's like
it was just the vibe. Like we were feeling it. Like
we're like, why don't we? Wouldn't it be crazy?
Man, what was the movie? I think it was on one of our newscasts. Anyways, we were just talking about one of our earlier episodes this month was horror through the decades, and we kind of touched on that too, Wendigoon, about how like you could kind of see as we went through the decades and what they were kind of known for horror wise. How exactly what you said, each the prominent movies were all kind of based around society's fears, and it's kind of been a thing, I don't know, since the dawn of horror, I guess, but you were talking about specifically in the United States. But yeah, it's very interesting when you go back and look and see like, oh, of course, the very early horror movies were about like the devil and demons
stuff
and
like
vampires
that.
and stuff, because everyone was like, religion was the thing and everyone was afraid of that. And then you could just kind of see when you get into like the 60s and 70s and you have movies like or I forget the decade, but like Godzilla and things of like
The atomic
giant
era.
mutated monsters and stuff. Well, of course, because like the atomic threat was kind of like just a thing that was blossoming there, and like people didn't know what it would do, right? And it's just interesting.
Can I real quick tell a story that I just remembered that's hilarious? Okay, so in one of my college courses, this was an English course about pretty much it was analyzing film, and my professor, I ended up warming up to him near the end of the semester, but he was a weird guy from the start. He talked in a really like sort of like a Jordan Peterson voice, kind of like a little quiet, like, well, I think we should, like sort of high pitched, like he was a little afraid of what he was saying.
Yeah.
And we get into a conference. He brings up Godzilla. I think it's because the story we were reading had something to do with like old world Japan. So he was bringing in exactly what you were talking about. Like, it's interesting how the United States have all these superheroes that start from radiation, like the Hulk and stuff like that. And then Japan has all these monsters that start from radiation.
Whoops.
I never thought of that.
Think about how many heroes like a nuke went off or radiation, and then they become the big hero for justice and peace. Where meanwhile, Japan, every one of their monsters. So I'm in this college lecture, and it's 8 a.m. Everyone wants to not be there. They're just quiet, and he's like, today I thought we would bring up this interesting topic. So he starts playing. He doesn't sound like Mickey Mouse. I'm just being Mickey Mouse for some reason. He pulls up all these clips from like old Godzilla movies from the 40s and 50s, and he keeps playing them and then pausing them and going, does this ring any bells? And then he hits play, and I'm like, where's this guy going with it? And eventually he pauses on Mothra, the giant moth thing, and it's flying. He goes, does this make you think of anything? And it's like 10 seconds of silence, and he goes, maybe a B-52 bomber.
Wow.
And I
Definitely
died. I was like cry laughing, and no one reacted. Everyone was like, what? And I'm like, oh, is he calling Mothra the American plane that bombed Japan? And then he's like, laugh if you will, but there's some truth to this. And then he goes forward and he shows Godzilla, and he was like, what if he had an American flag? Not so funny now. And it was the funniest.
I sense a new iceberg video coming soon.
Wow.
Yeah, anytime I'm like sad or whatever, I just whisper to myself, maybe a B-52.
I guess the sad thing there is probably not everyone in the class was like, what's a B-52?
Yeah, honestly, these were all like, like college sophomores who were like, I don't even know what he just said. I don't want a beer. Yeah. And then me, the weird guy in the back of the room, laughing at a picture of a box for some reason. Yeah, just dying. But that's one of the funniest things I've ever heard college class, that Mothra is symbolism for an American B-52 bomber.
That's pretty great.
All right, anyway, sorry. I didn't mean to derail. I had to tell that.
That was worth it.
The weird guy in the back of the room that they're all like, he understood the like random letters and numbers he just said.
Yeah.
Right here. He's interested in this Wendigo bungee cord conspiracy. He's not in the know.
You ever seen?
I can never tilt the camera up. Go ahead.
Men in Black. He is the real life version of the cockroach alien.
Oh dear,
terrifying.
And Lauren Box, yes, I remember being terrified with found footage movies, especially because I thought they were all real when I was a kid.
There's a little bit of truth to that.
Yeah.
I feel you.
Also, The Witch is so good. I love it. Anya Taylor-Joy is amazing.
She's
in that movie.
in. I really like her too. She's in some new movie. Oh, it's the next movie that Robert Edgers is doing. So you know how he did
Last Night in Soho.
Yeah, that whole thing. So she's supposed to be in that. So I'm looking forward to that.
She was in Queen's Gambit, right? And she was also in Split.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, she was really good in Split.
Yeah, she was in Split. That's right.
And right here, oh my god, the talking goat demon is creepy. Drag me to hell.
There's two.
It
demons.
is. I forgot all about that thing.
There's like the standing one that follows her around. That one freaked me out. But like when the goat starts talking and is like, "Ah, you put me in the goat," that made me laugh. That was funny.
Yeah,
I think this comment's probably my favorite. Ronald.
Okay, Ray, shut up.
That's exactly
I
what I thought.
Okay.
As soon as that came out, I'm like, you know, if Ray ever comes back to one of our streams, he will always be known as Ronald to me.
Ronald.
Guess what? You're Kristen now, so get over it.
Anyway,
about it.
Yes, and thanks, Ray, for pointing out that the first Godzilla movie was in '54, so I was only 6 years off.
All right, Nick, I want to hear what your genre is.
Yeah, he's just been putting it off. I don't
he's like, oh, what if we look at comments over here?
Yeah.
Look at this one. Yeah.
I have to have time to think about it because it's fresh. Yeah, I think I said it earlier, but I think in this chart it's the first 3 boxes under paranormal, so ghosts and spirits, haunted houses, and like possession stuff. I think, I don't know, it's just the most real to me for whatever, or like, I don't know, it's just so relatable, at least like the way it scares me. Like those are the type of movies and like ideas and concepts that frighten me. Because I remember like as a kid, like just like that sort of imagery. Obviously I don't think like would the Ring fall under these? Probably. Yeah,
it's in spirits, definitely.
Yeah, so just like the imagery, like just panning the room, seeing the black window because it's night out, and there being a face, then not being a face, or you know, you look and it's there, like that's terrifying. I legitimately, that's what irks up the fear in me, but it's like an enjoyable fear. It's like I like watching The Conjuring because it scares me, or Haunting of Hill House because I'm looking for that fright.
Such a good show.
Yeah.
Full disclosure, my nightly routine usually consists of
checking
either gaming or, like in tonight's case, doing the podcast. Then I would get off, usually do the dishes, and then watch a show, and then go to bed. And our sink is right in front of our kitchen window that looks out into our backyard, and we have like a cornfield out there. We don't have
we don't asking for it.
I know. We don't have like blinds or anything on this window, which sucks because I'll be doing the dishes and it's like 10:30 at night, and I'm just like, I will not look up out the window. I'm just like, I gotta really make sure this bowl's clean.
But you have to look
because I'm just terrified that I'm gonna see something out in my backyard, or like some signs like alien walking through the corn stalks, or Lauren Box just standing there with the ski mask on.
Good home invasion.
Yeah.
Lauren's like in the cornfield right now, like watching on the phone.
Well, joke's on you because I did the dishes before I came down here because I knew I'd be a little scared after this episode.
He was just going for it already. I remember last time we did a show, you were horrified about the black abyss over your right shoulder.
Right over there. I don't know why pointing is so hard for me on camera. But yeah, we started the podcast in September of last year. So we had like 2 or 3 episodes, and then we did a whole like Halloween series throughout October like we did this year. And one of our first episodes, we talked about Haunting of Hill House, and our guest that was on grew up in a haunted house, and he was telling like scary like ghost stories that happened to him. And the whole time he's talking, this was before we had video, so I'm just like sitting like this, because I'm just terrified that something was going to be there. So I'm just like, I'm just going to see it like when it comes. So that way I'm not like invested in this conversation, turn around to go upstairs and I have a heart attack because it's just standing there.
It's just your wife.
Yeah. No, she's an old soul. She went to bed like 2 hours ago or something. She can't be up this late. Yeah. But anyways.
I will add though, gore and disturbing. Like, how does that fit? Because obviously, I'm not sitting here watching these movies and be like, oh, I'm not fazed by it. Like, they are disturbing.
Yeah.
So I remember watching Hostel, and it was a good movie because it was absolutely disturbing, and very like cringy, like parts that you like literally have to like look away for the first like time or whatever. I think we all know which one I'm talking about. It's like the first thing that happens. And I mean, I guess I don't watch those often. I don't enjoy watching them, but they're good. And that's why I'm just so confused by this entire month, because it's like, am I supposed to like it or not like it? Because I don't like what I'm watching, but I can't not watch it.
Yeah, that part, that whole section is just makes me feel dirty.
I think it's interesting for me, right? Because like that disturbing movie Iceberg ruined me as a person. But like I feel like gore is very useful when it complements something. Like, for example, if you have a threat, say you have a killer movie of like, well, actually the original, like Nightmare on Elm Street's a good example. Like the entire movie, it's like, oh no, they have to get away from these things. But then whenever someone doesn't get away from it, it's like a bloodbath. Yeah. That really adds to the investment you have in character survival because of what may happen if things go wrong. So I think that's a really good way to use gore as an effective horror tool. I've never really been that bothered besides being just like you and like looking away of just violence, gore, whatever in a movie. Like Hostel's a good example. And one of the reasons I think it works is because we're interested in the characters, like to get away to try to survive. It's not just, and again, like I said, the disturbing movie Iceberg ruined me because I'm looking down at Extreme and I see Necromantic in a Serbian film. Stuff like that. That's just like, hey, you want to see how much blood we can put on the screen in 12 hours? Yeah, that's the whole thing.
Yeah, and like Hostel, like I think what got me about that, I'm like, well, as far as I know, at the age I am, this is completely true and this really happens. Like I can't argue that point. Like I've never been overseas in an Eastern European country and booked up in a hostel. This totally could have been a thing. That's scary.
Yes,
I think that also is an element to it because stuff like that's real. Like I see Cannibal Holocaust and Cannibal Ferox are there, and I like that cannibal is its own genre because cannibalism does bother me where gore doesn't. Just kind of like for the inhuman characteristic of it and how brutal it is. But like one of the reasons Cannibal Holocaust was such a big deal when it came out and the reason the director got arrested for public indecency was because everyone thought, for one, it was the first found footage movie, so that didn't help his case at all. But everyone who saw it thought it was real because the subject of the movie was cannibal tribes in South America. And 1960s random movie watchers have never been to South America and can't validate how real or not real it is. So they assumed that he was just showing videos of people being eaten and torn apart on camera. Like, because that's kind of like kind of like you saying with Hostel, like they didn't know. So they're like, yeah, this definitely happens. Yep.
This is a thing.
This is a thing.
I definitely that like group of subgenres, like the cannibal group would probably be the only one that would actually frighten me.
That's why The Road is scary.
Yeah, well, it's just because like we know I mean, not that torture doesn't happen. Torture does happen, sure. Like stuff that happens in the extreme movies, in some cases, like probably happens. But like we know for a fact that cannibalism is a thing, and like that is somebody eating you or another person or something. Like that's terrifying.
You know what I think it is? Because I had this like conversation with myself a while back. I was like, why is cannibalism creepy? Like, why does it bother me? And I think the part of what it is that we can just, at least in movies, we can justify someone killing someone in like self-defense across these, right? Like if in The Hills Have Eyes, the end scene where he gets like the axe or whatever and then fights back, we're like, yeah, there's our hero winning, right?
Yeah.
So we can justify like killing for survival and all of that. And we also understand that there's like evil happening everywhere in these movies. Like, oh, this is the bad guy. This is the villain, the movie monster. But whenever you take like Cannibal Holocaust is a good example. Whenever you take a group of people and you're like, oh, these group of people just survive because they simply kill others and then eat them. And that's their method of living. It does this weird like tick in my brain where it's like, I don't like that. I wish they were just evil. I wish they didn't do anything with the bodies.
Yeah, they're like the nicest people. They're super cool until they like get hungry, and then you're like, oh, geez.
That's one of the, like Nick mentioned it, The Road. That's one of the reasons that basement scene's so effective for me, because the entire movie has been going at great lengths to show you what people are willing to do to survive. And like, while if you sat there and thought about it for long enough, you'd be like, yeah, there's probably cannibals out there. Whenever they come to that basement where they're like running a human farm, because like you knew it was going to be there somewhere. You just didn't want to see it. I think that's what makes that so effective.
Well, yeah, and it kind of lures you in because it starts to make you think. I'm like, well, if I were in that situation, would I?
Start a human farm.
That's what. Thank you, Ray, for that insightful commentary. That's what like gets me so much. Like what you were saying, Nick, about like at what point would I? Because there's a bunch of stories that I don't want to use real life examples because that's kind of but different stories in movies where like good people have been pushed to that level, where it's like I think that's why one of the reasons it bothers me so much,
right?
Because I remember reading about places in Europe, specifically whenever Stalin like cut off supply routes and there were just people starving to death in the middle of like Ural Russia. And there were these cases where like old people were offering to be killed so they could be eaten by like everyone else in like small villages. Stuff like, because it's like, we obviously, you know, cannibalism is such an inhuman, like, nope, that is a big evil. We're pushing that over there. Don't want anything to do with it. And then you hear about cases like that and you're like, man, I
like,
sure hope
exception to this rule.
Yeah, like is there an exception to that horrible evil? I mean, it's still evil, but I guess it's an acceptable evil in those cases. That's one of the reasons it messes with me. It's like, no, you all can't do that because I don't like it.
Well, Mike, I kind of loop that back to like the Midnight Mass discussion as far as like cults and stuff. Where is there a situation where I can be convinced this is okay? Because you know, there's a group of cannibals and somehow I get intertwined with them, or, you know, is this possible? Am I going to become a cannibal under the right circumstances one day? It's like, ugh.
Am I going to be okay with joining this vampire cult? I don't know. I love the avatar here, the golden Mario mushroom. Who is Armin Muse? He has entered the chat, whoever he is.
Is that Armin from the only Armin I know is the Armin from Attack on Titan?
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say.
Let me type. How is Muse spelled?
Meiws.
Oh no, this is a real person. Oh, I know this guy. Yeah, this. Okay, yeah. All right. So Armin Muse was this guy who ran a website where he was looking for someone who wanted to be eaten alive.
Oh, I've heard.
Yeah,
of this,
that guy, that whole thing. Yeah, that's who Armin is.
Cool, great guy.
Thanks for bringing him into the conversation. Appreciate it. Very wholesome.
Right.
Okay.
So you'll go with Ghosts and Spirits, Haunted House Possession for your scariest genre.
Yeah, that block right there. Before it peels off into like Devil and Demon and Hell, which is not good. Like none of that really kind of bothers me. If anything, all that kind of like interests me as we get into like supernatural power and then loop into sci-fi aliens. I think that's like the cycle there. So I do like that it does touch, like Wendigoon said.
Yeah, I like it too.
And we got to get to the bottom of this because it could be concerning. Ray wants to know, like, you know?
Yeah, I saw that. Ray.
Got him.
Lauren, go stand outside of Ray's window.
Yeah, please.
Overlooking his sink.
Oh
Yeah.
god.
My choice.
We didn't ask you.
Thanks for asking, Nick.
Didn't ask. Use you.
Well, fine. You know what? You just have fun.
So, Mike, which of these
do
you find terrifying?
You know, hey, I'm glad you asked.
Yeah.
Contrary to you, the devil, demon, and hell is the one, really, and possession. Those two. More. It's hard to say which one would trump the other. Probably possession is most scary to me. And we've kind of talked about it on the show before, but it's very much aligned with Wendigoon, being a Christian, someone who believes in the Bible, believes in God. The devil is real. Demons are real. They're in the Bible. There are possessions in the Bible. Mm-hmm. So that stuff is very real to my belief system. And I don't know, just like watching that is, I mean, what we believe, doesn't line up with movies, right? Like, the possessions aren't like the Exorcist or the crazy stuff that you see. But it does, like, demons do exist, right? At least, what I believe. So while it's not going to be as terrifying as like somebody's head spinning around in circles and just projectile vomiting pea soup, like while they are walking on the ceiling of the roof, like, it won't go to that extreme, but like, I don't know. I'm just still, that aspect of those movies is just like, okay, this could actually happen to me. So
so like what gets me about it is like none of us in the modern age know. I mean, maybe a few people, but none of us really know the extent of quote unquote real possessions, if you know what they go to. Because I can't think of a possession case I've read where I'm like, yeah, that one's absolutely 100% true. I know that the Vatican has over 2,000 unreleased records that they'll never show the public, and I'm sure that the real ones are probably sprinkled in there somewhere.
Yeah.
But like reading about characters in the Bible, like the maniac of Gadara, who it says he would cut himself and they tried to chain him and he would break the chains and he screamed in the tombs at all hours of the night. Like, what does that look like? Like, what kind of monster is that? Which I love that story for a lot of reasons, but then it's like, okay, that's what that one was. It talks about them casting out spirits who did things like perform like black magic, essentially. It's like, okay, so what would one look like now? And I think that's one of the reasons that some possession movies are so effective to me, because there is this gray area of like, I know they're real, but I don't know to what extent they can operate.
Yeah.
So seeing them like go like full crazy in movies is like, I don't know, maybe.
Right.
Your guess is as good as mine.
Yeah.
There's this really good movie that I highly recommend to both of you, but especially Mike, because of him mentioning that he's also like believing in that stuff. It's called The Last Exorcism.
I think I've seen that.
Okay, yeah, it's the found footage one.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
So what I love about that movie so much is that the entire time the pastor is trying to convince himself it's not real.
Yeah.
Through the entire, he's like, there's no way this is real. It can't be happening.
Yeah. That was a good one.
Yeah, I really love that movie for that reason. And then there's the twist ending. But I love how it's like not known through the whole thing, which way it's going to go. Because a lot of the stuff they mention in the movie is, well, I've never seen a real one, so I don't know what a real one could look like.
Yeah.
That idea.
Isn't he like running a scam, basically?
Yes. Yeah, he's been a scammer, like scam pastor for years.
So good.
And then he gets called in on a quote unquote real exorcism. Mm-hmm. So I love that movie.
Yeah, it's just I used to be like all about these movies. They used to be my favorite horror movies to watch, but I don't know, maybe in my old age and kind of going into this comment here, possessed children inherently being scary, being a father. I don't know. It's just, I don't want any part of that anymore. I'll get my scares somewhere else. Huh?
Is that technically under small creatures possession?
Yes, very much. Children are very scary, possessed or not, and they definitely fall under the small creature monster.
Yeah, that's him right there, Gremlins, right? That's what that's referring to.
Yeah, exactly. But I would say after that, the ones that affect me the most, I don't know if scaring me is exactly. I mean, some of them do scare me. Specific examples I can't think of at the moment, but affect me the most probably would be psychological horror. Just like the tension, the uneasiness, the stress of those movies I love for some unknown reason. I have no idea why I like putting myself through that, but the movies that sometimes are hard to watch, not in a Serbian film type of hard to watch, but a hard to watch like a Midsummer or something like that, where it's just like you just feel very uneasy and uncomfortable like watching what's playing out on the screen. I love that, and those movies definitely make me feel things. If they don't make me feel fear, they make me feel other things that are unpleasant, and I enjoy it. I don't know.
Respect.
But, respect.
Makes you feel. Makes you to feel.
Gets me in the bad feels, not the good ones. We have so every week before we go into the next topic here, we have some replies in our Discord. Every week we post the topic for the episode, and we get comments from the members of our Discord, and we talk about them on the show. So we asked the same question: what genre of horror is the scariest for you, and also what would be the most terrifying if it became real life? So we have a couple that just answered the scariest horror genre. Rachel's Holiday says psychological thrillers are the most terrifying for me, partially because they often seem like they could be real. The Invisible Man with Kate Spade is a good example of this for me. You just is that the new one, Nick, that you just watched?
Yep.
Yeah.
With she's from Handmaid's Tale. It's pretty good. It had a nice twist to it.
Yeah.
It had people and characters.
And things happened.
Yep. Things happened.
The end. OG BB8, the one and only Bianca, she says psychological horrors are the scariest. We can rationalize when watching a creature feature or a supernatural horror that it's fiction, but psychological horrors force you to come face to face with the realization that not everyone around you is safe, trustworthy, or sane. That sometimes there are seemingly average people who can think of and do the unimaginable. The fact that it's not out of the realm of possibility is what's terrifying about them. People are the scariest of monsters, and psychological horrors are literally designed to play into our fear of others. So true. I always love her replies. They're always so thought out and in depth, and she definitely says them much better than I could. So thank you, Bianca. I think the other two answer the other part of the question, but yeah. Anything else to add before we move on to the next part? No. Okay, we got a comment here from the Lauren box. I always feel really tense seeing movies with possessed evil kids. Children of the Corn messed me a lot when I watched it for the first time. Oh, thanks for putting that image in my head when I go upstairs.
See, it just proves that the Lauren box is not in the cornfield waiting for you.
True.
Right?
Thanks for clearing that up for me. Also, maybe we just add like cornfields somewhere in this flow chart of horror.
That definitely fits in bumpkin and redneck.
Yeah.
So
it's
true.
like it's Western bumpkin. Like Eastern bumpkins like Deliverance and all that. Western bumpkins, the corn people.
Yeah. I love it. We'll have to edit that for sure. So moving on to the next part of the topic here, I thought it would be fun to I don't know, theorize what would be the most terrifying of these genres and subgenres if it were to actually become real. So for me, I'm going to take out possession and the devil, demon, hell categories because I feel like to me those are real to some extent.
Mike's about to be like, real life is the worst. That's it. End of the
Yeah,
podcast.
I actually hate real life. It's nice knowing you guys.
Life is hard. Life is bad.
Life is pain.
But for real, help me. Yeah, we'll start with you again then, Wendigoon. Like, if any of these, like, I don't know, think of some of your favorite horror movies. If any of those genres or circumstances were to like actually happen in real life, what like of those is most terrifying to you?
So like, to me, what gets to be like the most terrifying is like having no hope. Like, it's just like, well, this is it. This is done. There's no hope for a better future or whatever. And so that would like fit along the lines of like post-apocalypse, right? And that's kind of the idea I had forever. I'm like, as far as living at post-apocalypse, it's got to be the worst. Like a Will Smith I Am Legend situation.
Yeah.
Like that's just that it cannot get worse than just, well, this is life now and there's no one else ever. However, that's the way I felt about it forever until, have you seen 28 Days Later?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. This was my favorite part of the entire movie. It was a 3-second shot that recontextualized how I saw post-apocalypse movies. Do you remember the scene where he's running away from the soldiers who are chasing him, and he jumps over a wall and he lays down and he looks up and there's a plane going by?
Yes.
Okay. That single, just the idea that the world is still happening outside of this predicament, because the entire movie we're like, oh my gosh, there's this massive disease, it's a virus, it's killing everyone, what are we going to do, blah blah. And then just to know that everywhere else everyone's fine added a layer of like comedic irony to it. I was like, that's way worse to know that I want everyone else to suffer too if I've got to live like this. That's terrible. So whenever I saw that, it was like, okay, so it's got to be a completely hopeless scenario, but it's just happening to you. So it's like, what's completely hopeless and all that. And what's funny is, because when you asked me that question, he texted me before the show and was like, this is what we'll be discussing. I started thinking about it. The answer that is what would be the most terrifying in real life for me is ironically the least terrifying kind of movie to me. And that's like cheesy monster movies. Because like a good example, the example I thought of, like, this would be nightmare fuel if it was real for me. Have you ever seen the movie Deep Rising?
Mm-mm.
It's okay. It's like this really campy, I think it was 90s, maybe early 2000s. Action, sort of, it was like an action movie. It wasn't even horror really. But the idea was there was a cruise ship that got attacked by this giant kraken-like creature that has all these tentacles that shoot everywhere. And it like eats people and dissolves them. And it's a super campy movie. It's hilarious. Especially because, like, you know, you have your action heroes giving one-liners and they're shooting the giant eel things, whatever. It's a very fun movie. But if that was real life and you were trapped in the middle of the ocean, there's absolutely no way out, zero hope, and there's this monster going through every room of the building, like disintegrating people, that's beyond hopeless. That's like, I'll just put a gun to my head before it gets there. That is atrocious. There's even a part in the movie where someone's being like eaten and they try to shoot themselves and the gun's out of ammo. And I remember watching that scene as a kid. And that's it. Yeah, that's it right there. Deep Rising.
When you said action scene and like one-liners and I saw this image, I'm like, oh yeah, there it is.
That's it. That's exactly it. Go down. It's on the left
has
side.
her shoe.
Yeah, I was about to say, is she wielding a high heel?
There's a scene at the end of that movie where they're getting away on a jet ski and he's got a pump action shotgun like this. Yeah, that's the monster. He's got a pump action shotgun like this and he fires it and then she pumps it for him and he fires it again. It's one of those movies. But yeah, like those things going through and killing everybody. And Deep Rising is one of my favorite guilty pleasure movies because it's so ridiculous and it's so funny. But if it was real life, and because like it has some like surprising amount of gore in it too. Like they go to the part where they see what happens to like essentially the waste for all these creatures being eaten, and it's just like red skeletons everywhere, like mounds of them. Yeah. And thinking of like being trapped on a boat in the middle of the ocean with that thing. Oh yeah, that's That's beyond worse. That's like I'm stuck. There's nothing I can do, and everyone is perfectly fine back home. Yeah,
Right.
that's
awesome.
definitely the best for me.
Because looking at the chart, I was like, "There's no way someone's gonna pick like monsters."
Right.
So
yeah.
it's awesome. That you've convinced me.
Yeah. There we go. See.
Yeah.
Because if we're like bringing reality off the table, because the reason those movies aren't scary is because it's so beyond.
Right.
But if we're pushing it off the table, then bring it on. Monsters take it home.
Ray says empty farm fields. Yeah. Mine no longer has corn. It is recently plowed. So
Empty?
yeah. I'll say not as scary as a grown cornfield.
He likes to think it's empty.
Yeah. Old Silo says cornfields do be kind of scary though. And then Ray says, I was going to say the blue-green area would be terrifying if it were real. Not sure. You'll have to elaborate on that.
Chart. That's the paranormal and the monster one. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. If everything between that blue and green was real, it'd be very bad.
Yes. What about you, Nick?
I think as far as like,
see, I took the comments so you couldn't stall this time.
Yeah, right. No, you just stalled for me. Probably like, I would think like Cloverfield, where it's just definitely.
Hey, you said monster too. Hey,
yeah, giant monsters.
Definitely down in like the giant monster area, and even maybe into like sci-fi aliens. Maybe like. It's weird. It's mostly like the global, like everything's screwed kind of situation. Like that would just suck the most. Because
so like Wendigoon's No Hope, but on a global scale.
Yes.
Yeah, right. Because I think the only issue I have with Wendigoons is like there's a hope I could get out of this situation and be okay, and like I'm just gonna be stuck with this story that no one's gonna believe me happened.
Right.
Or
so basically, like you're living It Follows.
Yeah, right. Something like that. But that to me, the way in my interpretation of that movie, he potentially learned to live with it. So like, there's a way out, and like that is no longer the worst situation possible. The giant monsters thing, like world ending, whether it's even like like that, I would even give like zombies the benefit of the doubt there, right? Just something that just screws everything. Like that's just tough to get away from, and that's just. But it has to be to the point where it's like you can't deal with it, or like restarts the society. It's that existential dread that it's over, like it's done.
Nice.
I think that fits right in there where like I Am Legend's at. Like there is nothing to come back to after this. It's just gone. Yeah, I see what you're saying.
And there's probably a lot of ways that can happen, but those situations. But that's mostly monster paranormal.
Yeah. Silo says aliens in real life would basically be basically gods amongst us. Like, what could we even do? So true. Or is it true? We don't know what aliens are like.
See, I feel in my mind's eye, if idiots. I can, like what if they're just like, oh, we're lost?
What's that movie?
Australia?
Then all of a sudden we're like, come to our military lab base, and we're gonna do some tests on you.
Got a lot of maps there. We could point you in the right direction.
Now who's the monsters?
Right. That's probably what happened in the 60s. We think it's some conspiracy. They're just like, no, it's at our base. Just walk that way. Go get to it.
What was that Nick Frost and Simon Pegg movie? It was like Paul or something. I think it's like alien crash lands.
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah. Lauren Box says, I think being possessed or having your mind tricked by a monster is like the worst thing I could imagine happening with me. So Elm Street, basically. Yeah. That would be awful if you just couldn't go to sleep ever because you might have a clawed killer kill you while you're dreaming.
Wasn't there a movie more recently where they can't go to sleep?
Oh,
the world is ending, or like something's attacking everyone and making them unable to sleep. What is that movie? I just watched it like this year.
and it's not Nightmare on Elm Street.
No.
Yeah, sure. I'm having vibes of talking with Becca earlier before came down here.
Awake.
His reviews
On
are similar to
Netflix.
his
Awake?
Oh, I haven't seen that one.
On Netflix.
Hmm.
Yeah, it was.
Was it good?
Things happen. They couldn't fall asleep. Would recommend.
Yeah. It while the movie is like probably questionable in its quality, the concept that it drives on while you're watching it generates that would really suck. Like,
yeah,
you physically cannot sleep. It's not you can't go to sleep, you physically cannot sleep. And then basically, we can only live so long with no sleep, so there is this existential dread that you are about to lose your mind and die, kill yourself, whatever it might be. So it's probably just like a B-level movie, but it rides a really good concept that carries it. Worth a watch.
I'll be honest. This is maybe a hot take. Probably not anymore now that the hype is over. But that's the exact same way I felt about Bird Box.
Okay.
Like when I watched Bird Box, I was
That's
like, as
such
a
a bad
film, I was like, the concept I get why people liked it.
Yeah.
But as a film, I was like, this is getting a little too much attention.
Well, they had a lot of actors tossed onto it too. Like,
yeah, I mean, Machine Gun Kelly, come on.
Yeah.
Amazing.
BD Wong,
top notch. Hey, don't you talk about BD Wong? I like BD.
That's what I was saying. It's the actors carried that movie.
Yeah, something definitely happened there. I'm kind of sad because you took my answers.
I did. We did.
Yeah. No, you did.
Nice.
I was going to say my classic answer of a zombie-like spread of a basically incurable virus or post-apocalyptic type deal. But that's like a cliche answer. But in all honesty, that is the one that I made him leave.
Yeah, you made him leave.
He probably pulled a me and accidentally shut the window.
Happens.
Or he had to pee again. I don't know. But yeah, just we
it's the frame of the question, right?
Yeah.
Like, what would be the worst situation? I think, it's a fair one to go with.
Yeah, it's just I've always loved the zombie genre because zombies are scary, like shambling corpses that are trying to eat your brains, that would suck. But like more so the collapse of society and people being the real monsters like you see in The Walking Dead. And just the overwhelming sense of dread with how quickly the zombie virus spreads and like how unstoppable of a force it is, where just a singular zombie is not that much of a threat. If we're talking like George Romero zombies, you can outrun a zombie, but can you like outrun a horde of 50 zombies in a city where like every street you turn down there's like a group of 5 or whatever, and
right.
The relentless pursuit that is going to happen from a zombie horde, and like the collapse of society being the lack of being able to eventually run out of like food and things of that nature, where just living becomes increasingly harder and harder. That's kind of where I feel, or what I feel about the whole zombie genre. Welcome back, sir.
Yeah, I said one bad thing about Bird Box and my entire internet went out. So
you are much clearer. So
yeah, I would like to officially apologize to Netflix. I'm sure they're good people. Loud and clear, got
That's
it.
Hilarious.
I will not make the Kanye video. No copyright on this end.
Oh, we're talking about earlier this month on the gaming one, like scary like gaming urban legend kind of things, and I guess we were touching on some rough subjects because like Mike almost got dropped. Someone else that was on the video here got dropped. Like we were having some technical difficulties.
Yeah,
for
they
no
did
It's
not.
real
probably
good
because
reason.
you all keep calling it your how to make your own IED
Hey.
cast. Probably the reason your guests
No,
keep getting kicked
YouTube,
out.
don't listen. Don't listen to this man.
Just
It's
like
DIE.
reads off the words that you can't say on YouTube. Just
Yeah.
like you can't say bleep, bleep.
Yeah, that's why we haven't had Chad back. No, I'm just kidding. No, I was just saying about like the zombie genre and all the cliche things of why it would be the most terrifying if it were to actually happen. And as we kind of saw, like, I mean, obviously to a much smaller scale, but a larger scale in reality, because, you know, what we experienced with COVID is something that hasn't happened really, at least in our lifetimes. So we saw like the most realistic like mass spread of a virus, you know, as comparable to a zombie
New York
movie
looked
or
pretty
story
rough
or
there.
whatever. I mean, obviously people catching COVID weren't like running around trying to eat your brains, but like
Right.
just the world like shut down, and that's scary. You know, you couldn't find toilet paper anywhere. Like,
Yeah, it was interesting. It made a whole lot of people start to second guess like just creature comforts, right?
yeah,
Like
and
stuff
that was-
like, oh, this will always be here.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
But just
What if
like
it's not?
the whole concept that comes behind what makes zombie movies so terrifying is terrifying to me. But I'm not gonna, you know, take the cheap answer. So then I was going to say like Lovecraftian, like cosmic giant monster threats like Cloverfield and the likes like that would obviously be terrifying, because, you know, who wouldn't be scared of a giant creature rising from the sea and rampaging through New York and all that stuff. But then I was thinking, you know, the hopeless factor that Wendigoon was talking about would also be super terrifying. And as you guys were talking, mainly when Nick was talking, I did start thinking about It Follows, which was a movie we reviewed earlier in October. But just like the sense of dread that comes along with that story of how like to free yourself of being followed and being eventually killed, you have to pass it to somebody else. And then if they don't pass it to somebody else, like it's just going to come back to you, and like having to continue the cycle is just like, oh man, if something like that were to actually happen, that would just be so awful.
Unfortunate.
Like, so I don't know. I mean, I guess those would be my answers, but yeah.
That was a wildly, like, thinking about It Follows, that was like a very interesting and unique idea for a horror movie. I really liked it. One of my favorite details about the movie is the first time I watched it, I was with a group of friends. It was in high school. So you can imagine a group of boys like, all right, so what I would do, and like explaining how they're going to make such a long line of people that it'll never get back to them.
I guess that comes down to the logistics of it, though. Like, does it only pass once, or like?
Yeah, so that's the question, right? Does it have to chain through everyone?
Yeah, or can you like set up a reserve, like
right?
line?
Yeah.
And could you
Could
just
you
go
load some
to
extra ammo in there?
yeah, like could you go to a different continent? Like it doesn't do water. Or would it figure it out?
Theoretically, if you trace the source back long enough to whatever this It thing is, it's been around forever, and there's one guy who started the whole thing.
Yeah.
He's got such a web going out that everyone is somewhere on the line. If you go far enough back.
Yeah. That was such an interesting premise for a movie. Like, I really enjoyed that one.
You know those snail memes going around right now?
Mm-mm.
The joke about like it's that would you push the button game. And it's like you get to live forever, but there is an immortal snail that's following you forever, and if it touches you, you die.
Yeah, so It Follows.
Yeah, so It Follows. Yeah, only it's a snail.
Yeah, I always loved how like, it could like take on any form to like follow
Get
you,
close,
right?
yeah.
And in some it like blended in, and like in the very beginning he's like, oh, you wouldn't switch places with that girl in the yellow dress or whatever. but like every time you see it in the movie, it's just like a naked person. So like, if I was it, I would just be like walking around naked, because obviously the person I'm following would be like, oh, that's weird that there's a naked person walking through the middle of the mall right now. Like, of course I'm gonna not stand by that person.
Yeah, you'd expect it to be like, just a random dude.
Yeah.
What was so funny to me is at the end of the movie, whenever the whole pool scene where she's in the pool and they're trying to take it out or whatever, it appears as her dad, who's dead. Who it's like, that's the worst disguise you could have picked.
Yeah.
Like this girl who knows she's being chased by a supernatural entity will be like, wait, is that my dad?
Yeah.
I better run and talk to him.
Yeah. My favorite one, though, is when they're driving away and it's just the naked dude standing on the roof. I loved that one. That was amazing.
Yeah,
They'll never see it coming.
I want to know more about the psyche of it, because it plays games with people. Like it has its own personality for sure. And because it didn't right away kill her, it could have. It was just playing with her hair. Like it messes with you. And like, why is that? It's just like naked dude stay on the roof of the house because I felt like it. Like that was the reason.
It's something else I really respect about It Follows that I thought the movie was going to do watching it. You know how every movie like that, there's a scene like halfway through where she'd go to a library and she'd open up a book and she'd be like, oh, it's the Apu Napwa from the old Japanese folklore. And all we have to do is burn sage and blah, blah, blah. Like that, like they try to reason it. I love they didn't try to reason it.
No.
Yeah. They're like, it follows. That's it. That's all you get.
You're not gonna learn
That's your whole setup.
else. And I also loved the end of the movie, how they like inceptioned us, where it's like, did he like is it following them, or did they pass it on, or I don't know. It was
the only solution is to go full schizophrenic and kill anyone you see walking at a medium to slow pace. Can't take any chances.
Yeah. Hey, you gotta do what you gotta do, I guess. Underfunded Scientist says, dude, the immortal snail meme has gotten so real. I seen a TikTok of a kid beating a printer with a hammer, and it said the immortal snail made him do it. Well, at least it was a printer and not like a Slenderman incident there.
Yeah, the memes are pretty funny, to be fair. It'll be like a guy like reaching out an olive branch, and it's like me and the snail after the heat death of the universe as we float through space and decide to end it. Like, yeah, just ridiculous stuff.
Nice. Yeah, we'll go ahead and go through the last two comments from Discord. Speaking of Underfunded Scientist, he says Dead Space would be so scary in real life. Which for sure, like we've talked about.
I didn't even think about that. Yep.
That
that's kind of like the boat thing.
Exactly. Yeah, that's what I was going to say. That whole thing I said, where like there is a world happening, but you are entirely hopeless.
Mm-hmm.
There's nothing you can do. Exact same concept. Honestly, maybe Dead Space worse, because like in Deep Rising, like people got eaten and chewed up and stuff. In Dead Space, you get eaten and chewed up, and then your parts become like the things that eat and chew people up. And I'm gonna say that's probably the worst.
Yeah, and there's just something about like the isolation of space or the ocean. I mean, I know you're afraid of the ocean.
Yes.
I also am not a fan of like being in a body of water where I cannot see the coasts. But it's because of that like whole isolation thing, and the fact that like, have we really been to the bottom of most of the ocean? No idea. It's so big, and
we know more about space than we do the ocean. I'm pretty sure.
It's just
we only we have a sure grasp on 7% of marine life. Think about that.
Yeah, it's terrifying. Clover could be there.
Dude, that's actually what my Halloween video is going to be about. The one out on Halloween, it's about just like awful ocean stories, because that is the thing that scares me more than anything else.
Yeah,
like there are so many different cases of completely nightmarish, like hellish, Lovecraftian stuff, and we're like, oh, well, you know that's what the water does. Like we just pass it off, like it's not there.
Yeah,
we need to get rid of it.
Yeah, it's just. Yeah, exactly. The fear of the unknown and big time isolation. I think that's what makes a lot of space stuff so scary. It's just like what are you gonna do? Talk
Constant
about hopeless.
tension.
Yeah.
Talk about hopeless. Like,
The original Alien kind of also applies
Yep.
on that idea. Like just being stuck on a ship with one of those aliens. It's that same idea of just, the tagline, in space, no one can hear you scream.
yeah,
Like, what are you going to do? Absolutely nothing.
right. Underfund says so true, and Reynolds says Cloverfield is real. Slusho becomes a thing. Don't even talk about Slusho. I love the Cloverfield movies, by the way. Some of my favorites. But then Underfunded says zombies in general are super scary, of course. And then BioCiv, our last comment, says any sort of apocalypse that humanity survives but is left crippled with. It usually shows humanity's worst side. The Walking Dead, Book of Eli, Last of Us, even that show Revolution on NBC. Generally, people are selfish and will do anything to survive. I don't blame them, but it becomes a very scary situation because I know what I would do to protect my loved ones. Yeah. Agreed.
Book of Eli is a fantastic movie, by the way.
Yeah.
Very good.
Man, the thing got me.
But that one has a lot of hope in it because, I mean, there's a lot of hope built into that story and that world. So that's why that's not too bad, because you basically become some sort of like West. It's like kind of like the Wild West again. A little bit more dire, but manageable.
Have you seen, either of you seen Children of Men?
Mm-mm.
All right, so like I'll give you the setup, and I don't want to spoil anything else because it's one of my top 10 movies ever. The setup is about 20 years in the future, and for some reason, every man on Earth has gone sterile all at once. Or no, sorry, every woman has gone sterile. So for the past 20 years, a child has never been born. So there is the eventual idea that humanity is just going to cease to exist because no one can reproduce. And like the movie is so careful and interesting about how it plays out the consequences of that over time. Like different cults and groups that have formed around the idea of like in a future where humanity thinks this is it, it's over, there's no future to behold, how they play that out. It has a few action set pieces that are some of the best directed set pieces I've ever seen. There's one scene at the end of the movie that I've considered making an entire video about, the 1 5-minute shot, because it's like, it is soul crushing. I love that movie so much. But the basic plot of the movie in the first like 15-20 minutes is a woman gives birth to the first child that's been born in 20 years. So the idea is that, kind of like you were talking with Book of Eli, there's a hopeful note to it. And that's what made me think of it. It's like this one baby is literally the hope for all of humanity, just because it exists. But it's a fantastic movie. But yeah, same thing with Book of Eli. I love even before you get to the end reveal at the end of the movie, like it's hopeful that there is this one piece of literature that can maybe do something. Yeah.
And kind of looking at this chart too, like, and just kind of with like people's comments is, and maybe that's just like the common theme. Like obviously someone could claim any of these as like probably the worst case scenario, but like imagine, kind of, well, I mean, I guess that's what The Road is. And that's why The Road is kind of scary, because that's kind of, bumpkin redneck cannibal, very, very despair.
Monster
kind of
apocalypse
situation.
zombie.
Yeah.
Check all the boxes, please. Thank you.
Or like Deliverance. Like that's kind of like almost like the boat thing. Like the rest of the world is fine, but you've stumbled upon potentially the worst situation you could have.
Yeah. Man, I would love for another post-apocalyptic, like contained apocalyptic movie like you're talking about with 28 Days, where like just, I don't know, I can only think of Canada because it's our northern neighbor, but like just the world has ended in Canada, but like we're just chilling down here in Ohio, like nothing even is going on. I don't know. That would just be.
What are you plotting? You're like, well, I mean, let's just make a place Canada. Okay, so let's say that Canada is gone and life is perfect, and I don't have to worry about Canada.
Everything's great.
Mike's greatest fear is Canada.
Yeah, Canadians, they just creep me out. I mean, have you ever seen South Park? Just the way their heads. I mean, it's just uncanny valley much, you know. Your mouth's not supposed to move like that.
There is there's some like apocalyptic things that play that out, but they don't really play it out for fear. That new I haven't seen it yet, but I know that zombie movie on Netflix with Dave Bautista in it. I forget what the name is.
Army of the Dead.
Army of the Dead, yeah. How like the plot of that is that there's just zombies in Las Vegas.
Yeah,
and they have to go do a heist. Mm-hmm. Yeah, they contained it, stuff like that. I think ideas like that are in. You know what's a great example I just thought of? The Mist.
Sounded a lot like your college professor there.
Well, you know what's a great example? A B-52 bomber.
Does this ring any bells?
Does this ring any bells? The Mist, the Stephen King story, where it's like there's the fog that settled over this town. Mm-hmm. And then there's like these horrific monsters eating and killing everyone. And then at the end of the movie, you're like, and it's just that one town. Everywhere else is totally fine. Yeah. Nothing bad has happened. That is awful. Yeah. That movie is atrocious for that, especially the ending.
Spoiler alert. No, I'm just kidding.
No, they can get over it. It's been out 15 years. I did that at the beginning of the Dante's Inferno video. I'm like, spoiler alerts, but it's been out for 900 years. Yeah. You've had a chance.
I really enjoyed that video. That was fun.
Oh, thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Yeah, that's all of our comments from Answer the Boys in our Discord. Thank you to everyone who replied there. We enjoy reading through your comments a lot. It always brings us sustenance. And speaking of, you can join our Discord. It's a fun place, best place to stay on top of all things Showboys related. And our link for our Discord is in our Linktree page. And yeah, it's a fun place to be. Hope to see you there sometime. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, you guys got anything else to add here before we wrap up?
I think I'm good.
Yeah.
Wendigoon, you got anything to plug? I don't know if you're kind of frozen there.
Yeah, I know. I'm like,
I just realized that. I'm like, he's not very still, or
he's just holding his breath in anticipation of where the episode was going to go. He actually looks a lot like you did towards the end of the last time he was on.
Someone has to get it. It just happens like that. You just die in your chair.
That's great.
Now do we ever see his chair? I'm really thinking about this whole like Wendigoon like puppet thing. Like what? Like he's not sitting there. He's just kind of like
either that or he has like the world's biggest like quads because he's just like squatting for 3 hours.
That's why he's like, hold on, I gotta go to the bathroom.
Yeah, he's really just stretching his legs out, laying on the floor for a minute. But yeah, I guess the real question is, do we wait? Yes, we do.
He's back.
Because he's back.
Yeah. Okay, so I can't talk about Netflix movies, and I cannot talk about what was the last thing I mentioned before I even cut out?
The Mist, I think.
Yeah,
the Mist.
Say it again.
I spoiled it. That's what happened.
Okay. Yeah, that's what happens last time. You don't spoiler alert.
But look what happened while you were gone.
Yeah. The Wendigo conspiracy theory is
true.
What
Great, I'm gone for 3 seconds. And get exposed.
You weren't here. We had quite the discussion on your seating situation because you kind of
my seating situation.
Yeah, you kind of looked like Nick did towards the end of our last episode because your screen kind of froze and you just kind of looked a little lifeless. And then we got to wondering like what your chair looks like, and then I theorized that you actually don't have a chair and you just have huge quads because you're just squatting the whole time.
But I think it's the Wendigoon above you controlling you.
Yeah. There is a theory that I could just be a torso for all you guys know. There is a theory I've seen people postulate.
Sorry, I'm just imagining.
No,
it as
you're
just
good.
a torso.
I'm now thinking
Yeah.
about all the Wendigoon videos I watched. I'm like, have I ever seen like below
No.
his like chest?
Nope.
Nope. You have not. Wouldn't it be wild if one day the camera just panned and I have no legs. I just like wheel out next to the table. There is a theory that I'm like incredibly short and I just stand while I do these.
Yes, I love it.
I'm built like those little muscle man memes. Like the chest is fine, but the rest of the body's like a pyramid.
I'm not gonna lie.
So that's not your writing on the whiteboard?
No, it's his girlfriend's. He can't reach. But I'm not gonna lie. When we had this screen up, I was that thought kind of crossed my mind because the two girls from The Shining, like their legs, like the way the screen is set up, just like come from your shoulders, and so that's now how I imagine you.
just like chest, knees.
Yeah, chest, and then a set of two different small girl legs from the show.
Ooh, that'd be terrifying. Like a 4-leg thing. Like, imagine if those legs were running like now and my arms were up like this. That'd be terrible.
Well, okay, that's why you guys tune in, because we talked about stupid things. Uh-oh. We need to know about this not safe for work ref video.
I need to click that video.
I think I know what he's talking about, and that was a very interesting video.
Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah, well, with my track record for getting like my internet destroyed for talking about Frank Darabont, I doubt that the Alkali Raf guy would appreciate. Well, he's dead now, so I'm fine.
Are you?
Yeah, well, hopefully. I mean, unless that whole possession, maybe that's what it is. He's come to possess my internet for talking about him. I did rag on that guy pretty hard in the video, but he kind of deserved it. So.
Yeah. He's kind of not exactly the greatest.
He was a jerk.
A human. But yeah, I guess that wraps up the episode tonight. I don't want to keep you too late. Yeah, it's fun discussion. Just like last time, it was a blast. And thank you so much for joining us again.
Oh, thank you guys for having me. I had a great time.
Yeah, we'll have to do it again sometime. So, Nick, well, first, Wendi, do you have anything you would like to plug?
Yeah, what are you up to?
After you're done plugging, Nick wanted to ask you some stuff that I totally forgot about until right now. So
that's not true.
Well, let's just get.
Well, now I'm invested. Go for it.
Usually, we always ask, what our guests have been watching.
Mm-hmm.
So, like we did last time, what are you watching these days? Anything?
Honestly, like as far as actual series go, everything I watch is like 4 videos. Like I've been watching a bunch of like YouTube analog horror. I've been watching, I guess this kind of counts. Are you familiar with BuzzFeed Unsolved?
Yeah.
So I've been watching I've seen a ton of them, but I think now I can definitively say I've seen every episode of BuzzFeed Unsolved, like true crime or otherwise. And not only that, but also they're leaving BuzzFeed Unsolved and they're going to a channel called The Watcher, which is like the same thing, only it's more fictional stories. But I love Shane and Ryan. That's really the only series that I've been watching a ton of lately. Mm-hmm. The reason for that is because I have plans in the future, and I'm looking for some ideas, basically. So I'll leave it at that. So
that was very Nick of you. Thank you.
I
have
am
plans.
doing things, and this is also a thing. So yeah, 9 out of 10.
I have a channel. I have plans. Stay tuned.
I am a YouTuber, and I do YouTube. Yes.
Yep. YouTube.
I make content.
So quickly, Nick, just real quick, we don't have to go in depth, but what are you watching? We'll just go around the table.
Yeah, I've been watching Age of Samurai on Netflix, basically due to Ghost of Tsushima. That just was a natural progression. I was like, oh, look, something I can sit and watch samurai just brutally murder other people instead of actually doing the act, instead of being the samurai and brutal. Yeah. So mostly been chipping at that. I need to get back to The Expanse so I can finish season 5 before season 6 comes out. here in December. Other than that, just kind of casually just hanging out in October and watching scary stuff. So I rewatched The Conjuring. Gonna rewatch second Conjuring. Actually, I think I've never seen the second Conjuring, to be honest.
Nice.
Just like random stuff like that. Really just taking this month of October to expose myself to scary films and stuff, which I normally never watch. So it's been fun.
Nice.
Good vibes.
Yeah. Also on the expansion train myself. I just finished season 3 last night, so season 4 is about to start up, and
you're in the thick of it.
Yeah, it's been pretty interesting. Really enjoying that. My wife and I, of course, we started Midnight Mass. She ducked out. I finished it. It was great. Loved it. And then we finished Dave season 2, which we talked about last time. Last few episodes got much better. And I think, not to get too deep into it, but if you look at Dave without ever seeing season 1, season 2 is good. But if you go into season 2 with the expectations that's going to be just like season 1, you're going to hate it because it's not.
Interesting.
So yeah, if you plan on continuing to watch that show, because you and your girlfriend have watched it, yeah,
we watched season 1.
Okay, so if you guys decide to continue on with Dave, just pretend like season 2 is like a new series or something. Like
it's an anthology.
It's
gotcha.
A much different tone than season 1.
This is VHS 5. Only
yes.
long.
So we finished Dave. We're one episode away from being caught up on What We Do in the Shadows. Season 3 has been hysterical. And that pretty much does it for me. Yes, Ray, premature claps. I apologize deeply. Silo says, been watching What We Do in the Shadows. It's hilarious. It really is one of the funniest shows I've ever seen, and I've been trying to talk Nick into watching it. It's great. Have you heard of it, Wendi?
I've heard of it, but I'm not familiar with it.
Yeah, it's like The Office / Parks and Rec, but documentary crew following around a house of vampires as they try to take over Staten Island.
Right. That's funny.
Dude, it's so funny. That's what we've been watching, and then you have your gaming channel on YouTube. And so we wanted to ask you what you've been playing recently, if you've been playing anything.
For the first time in forever, I'm actually able to play video games because
Nice.
YouTube's in a place where I can breathe. I have been playing a lot of Back 4 Blood lately because it just came out, and I like it because I love Left 4 Dead so much, the original games. And Back 4 Blood, like at first I was very hesitant the first few games, but now I'm vibing with it. I like it a lot.
Nice. I see Hobbs has joined the chat.
Yeah, he's asking me if he can go outside so he can go to bed for good.
Yeah. Silas says, true, every episode has made me laugh multiple times. Very much. I cannot recommend What We Do in the Shadows enough. Nick, what have you been playing?
I have been playing... What's that one game? With like the controller and it's on the screen.
All right.
I love it. It's great.
Good.
We'll play it.
9 out of 10.
Yeah. A little bit of Valheim. A little bit of
Valheim,
Valheim
yeah.
here and there, but I've since Ghost of Tsushima, like story wise, I've wrapped that up, and Chad and I did our Patreon episode on that.
Yeah.
I feel like I can breathe a little bit and not just like slam through that game. And I'm just gonna like slowly like platinum it. But I've been playing No Man's Sky. Picked that up on sale on the PlayStation. So
Nice.
I've been getting through the like intro there. It's a pretty
That game has had the most interesting turnaround
Yeah.
of anything I've ever seen.
I mean, some
Like,
people
it's
claim it's got
insane.
like the best like turnaround recovery story of anything. I don't know how true that is. But
Honestly, there's a video by the internet historian where he goes into detail about like what it started out at to where it is now. Honestly, like it is the most impressive flip I've ever seen a company do.
Yeah, for sure. It's on Game Pass, which I just signed up for a trial of on the PC, and I downloaded it, and yeah, I need to turn it on. but I can't stop playing Darkest Dungeon. So, and Darkest Dungeon 2 just came out, so that sucks for me.
Yeah, and as short as you can put it, I mean, what happened with New World? I saw you play that like one night and then crickets. So much hype.
I've been excited for New World, and I still am. It's just, we played the preview event last September. We played the closed beta this year. And so this is my third time like starting a character. And I want to get back into the game, but I'm just like, I don't want to do this again. Like start my character for the third time, So I just got to get over the hump of like the first 30 minutes of the game and like get my character to the starting area.
Just buy it again like Chad does and then start a new character and be okay with it.
Yes. So Silo asks, has anyone played any Dark Picture anthology games? I have not, but didn't a new one just come out, I want to say?
That sounds cool.
Like House of Ashes or Man of Medan? No, I have not. But I heard a lot of people like them, very story narrative driven. Ray says, Nick seems to like survival crafting games. He should check out Paleo. And then he says, Paleo.
I do a little bit.
Yeah, he does enjoy the survival crafting games, that's for certain. And then Ray says, I've played one, Silo. They're all right. So there you go. But yeah, now, do you have anything you'd like to plug before I rudely interrupt you with anything else to talk about?
No, you're good. Was there actually a question you wanted to ask me, Nick, or was that just?
I think just what you're playing, what you're watching.
Oh, okay,
I got my other questions out at the beginning.
Yeah, I gotcha. All right. Nothing really to plug, I'll say. I'm trying to think if there's anyone right now. Scrabble again. Still a fantastic YouTuber, still making good videos. I plugged him last time. He still deserves it. It's SCRABBL. I did a video with him once. Fantastic guy. Check out his channel.
Nice. Have you hit 1 billion subs yet? You're on the climb.
I may have, well, let me check real quick. Hit 3/4. Yes, 750,000. I hit a few hours ago. So
Congratulations.
Thank you very much. It is wild how fast it's been going, but I'm very blessed and I have a fantastic audience that has got me here. And it means the most. Like guys who come in now from Twitter, it's really cool to see. Yeah. So I'm definitely honored and appreciate it, but it is really cool, and I'm still like having trouble processing it. I enjoy it.
Yeah, that's awesome. I couldn't even joke around with 1 million because you're like close. So, you could have very much been like, oh yeah, actually, yesterday I'm at 1.1 million.
The coolest thing is the fan art that's been coming in on the Twitter. Yeah. Love the fan art.
There's a lot of it. I like it. It's fun.
Very creative. The giant one is really good.
The giant one's good. I like
they have some new ideas now, like specifically this version of Wendigoon with the 4 legs coming out of his shoulders.
Yeah, someone's going to make some monstrosity with that. The worst fan art, and I can definitively say this, has been people thought it'd be funny to draw me as alternates from the Mandela catalog. Which the plot of that series is that there's these things that try to mimic you, like you specifically, but it always misses with like details and makes these inhuman monsters. Yeah. So people are like, oh, we'll draw Wendigoon as that. Because then he'll know exactly what his nightmare fuel is. And I hate it. I hate it so much. It's awful.
Oh, that's great. But yeah, about your audience, the people that have dropped in the episodes that you've been on and chimed in chat, they've all been such cool people, and I could see exactly what you're saying. You seem to have a cool fan base and following, and I'm not just saying that because I'm a part of it.
And I appreciate it.
No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah,
I actually don't like any of your content.
I know that's why the first time you had me on, you were like, No, I really do appreciate everyone, and I don't deserve it, but it's been great to see. I want to do right by everyone. That's why, anytime something's up, I try to give everyone a heads up and let them know because they deserve it. But yeah, I've got a bunch of cool people behind me that've got me here. It means a lot.
For sure. Well, we don't want to keep Ray and Silo out here, staying up late with fake endings. So I'm going to end it for real this time. Again, thank you so much for coming on. Those of you out there watching, thank you for tuning in. Subscribe if you enjoyed what we did tonight. Check out our Discord, our Patreon, Showboys, or patreon.com/showboyspodcast. All of our links can be found at linktr.ee/showboyspodcast. And yeah, have a wonderful night. We'll play you out with our theme song.
Oh, no.
Good.
Did that song get longer?
It should have.
Are we still live?